All right. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, fellowship number 23. 23 Shabbats together. Praise Yah. So awesome. So yeah, was gonna go over, the usual, go over the calendar a little bit. We're going to start reading actually, chapters at a time out of my article. Also going to start reading basically chapters at a time out of the Dead Sea Scrolls as well. And if you don't know, I've made some updates to my article as well. I've added more about Rabbi Akiva, things like that, just to give more details about certain things here and there. And yeah, if you're listening on YouTube, I always have it linked in the description, as well as the Zadok calendar playlist, which I think is very important to watch on my YouTube channel as well. It's got Eddie Chumney, people like that. Pretty amazing. Rachel Elior. But anyways, uh, let's go ahead and begin with some prayer, and then we'll get right to it. Father Abba Yahuwah, we thank you for allowing us to come together and fellowship for this Sabbath day. We thank you for this day of rest, and we thank you for all of your wisdom and your guidance that you have provided to us. And we ask that you please continue to help to guide us and strengthen us, and to give us more understanding to your word. And I wanted to pray for all those who are struggling through trials and tribulations and sicknesses. No matter what it is, we all need your help, Father, and your strength to endure to the end. And I pray to you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Amen. All right. Welcome, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Everett and Sarah, welcome. Just in time. So let me go ahead and share the screen here. So we will start with going through the calendar. Again, we continue to search things out, test things out, and make adjustments here and there when we see them and when necessary, as the Father leads us through all of this. So we're going to start right here actually with 4Q324D. So this is a scroll, a calendar scroll found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So what we're going to see basically is this entire scroll is going to lay out, the beginnings of the months. So it lays out the exact days every month special days fell on, like the 1st and 30th day of the months, every Sabbath day, 7th day Sabbath day, every festival, and the 4 seasonal days, the intercalated days, which would be the 31st day every 3rd month, that are going to divide the 4 seasons. So in 4Q324D, specifically column 5, verses 9 and 10, and then actually this right here is from column 6, verse 1, which I should add in there. But we see on the 28th in it is a Sabbath. And then on vacate, which means a lot of missing text was found here. And then after this missing text, we see weekday 2 and it falls, the 30th day of the month, and weekday 3 is additional. This is about the 31st day of the 12th month right here, that seasonal intercalated day. So when we go to 4Q394 in its original text, what's on the scroll itself, not author's insertions, not bracketed insertions from other texts that authors think should go here. The original text, we're going to see, speaking about that same 28th, a Sabbath in it. After the Sabbath is added, a day is added, and the year is complete in 364 days. The remainder is blank. So this is from Florentine Garcia Martinez, which we're going to be reading from his version when we do our Dead Sea Scrolls version, or sorry, our Dead Sea Scrolls reading. And I believe this is one of the most accurate translations, and it shows clear distinctions where things were added and inserted, which we're going to see. So continuing, so when we combined both 4Q324D, where vacate was located, and 4Q394, this is what we're going to get right here. So on the 28th in it is a Sabbath, and then I have the brackets here showing this is where 394 is instead of vacate. So after the Sabbath, a day is added, and the year is complete in 364 days, and then the bracket to show that's the end of 394. And then weekday 2 in it falls the 30th day of the month. Weekday 3 is additional, that spring intercalated 31st day of the 12th month. This is the proof in the Dead Sea Scrolls where the divider day is. We're going to see this in creation week right here in Genesis 1, 1 and 2. So this is from the BSB version. This is all, you can find this on Bible Hub. I like this version because it's going to show the separation and the separation of days here in Genesis. So this is not, I'm just showing this to share. This is not something that we came up with here in this group. This is right here in this Bible right here. So it's showing the creation. So this is speaking about the time before the counting of days. There was a time before the counting of days because we see the counting of days started when the light came to be, as marked here. So right here, Genesis 1 and 2, 1, 1 and 2. So in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the spirit of Elohim was hovering over the surface of the waters. So this is that before the numbering of days was marked by the light coming to be, as we see, we're going to read right here, as marked by the first day in this specific Bible translation, which I think is really awesome. So, and Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Boom, like the flip of a light switch. There was no blendings or anything. It was boom, there was the full amount of light. We were just speaking about this, how this light is Messiah himself right here. Boom. Because we see, Messiah, he's the living word. The Torah is the light. There is light that's going to light up the new kingdom, heaven and earth, without the sun. We see this light was here before the sun, because the sun was made on day 4. So anyways, continuing. So he made the light, which marks the starting of the counting of days. And then he saw the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness, from the chozek. Then Elohim called the light day, Yom, and the darkness he called night, Lila. There was evening and there was morning, the first day. So this is the blending that we're going to see. These two blendings of evening and morning. And then after this, boom, the light comes, marking the second day. So back down to the article here. Let me kind of scroll up and show you what I'm speaking about. Because I have a picture, where is it? Right here. Of exactly what I'm speaking about. So it's going to begin with as soon as the bottom of the sun has broken the horizon, that's when we see the full light. Before that, it's this blending that we see. So it begins full light. Then we have evening, which Layla. We have the darkness, which is Chazek. Then we have the Boker, or the morning. And this is going to constitute a day lined out as we see in scriptures. It's going to be our standard for the rest of creation week. So let me get down to it here. Oops, a bit too far. There it is. So this is going to set our standard for creation week, because we see this void of time before the counting of days, and then boom, the light starts our counting of days. Boom, this is how we get our 7-day weekly count each year. This darkness, Chozek, is going to be that void of time before the counting of time. So just like we saw in Genesis 1, 1 through 2, Genesis 1, 3 through 5 is going to consist of the numbering of days. And so we're going to see here in Jubilees 2, verse 9. So Elohim appointed the sun to be a great sign for days, Sabbaths, months, festivals, years, all of these things. So that same chapter, Jubilees 2:21, he created therein a sign in accordance with which they should guard the Sabbath with us on the seventh day. Us, because this was an angel speaking. So, what sign is that? The sign of the sun, as verse 9 just told us. And it's going to be the straight line shadow, which we see here, 4Q320. The sun rising in the morning, shining, boom, marking the fourth day of the week. We're going to see many verses, as we see here, that are alluding to this fourth day of the week and the marking and tracking of the spring equinox, which they called the Tekufa. This is going to match the menorah pattern we see, because the longest, straightest branch is marking day 4. What do we see? The straight line shadow on the equinox. This is always going to track day 4. This is what we see in 4Q324D, 4QMMT, 4Q320. Tekufa is marking day 4. Equinox marking day 4. As we see the reconstruction here I have of it, 4Q324D, beginning of the first month, on weekday 4, Tekufa. How do we know this? Fourth command, keep the Sabbath. Fourth day of creation is when the sun, moon, and stars were created. The fourth gate in Enoch, Gadol Dalet, the fourth letter of the alphabet, which means the door or passageway. The fourth menorah branch, the longest straight branch. 3 branches later, the 7th branch, Shabbat. That's the sign in Jubilees 2:21. This is the sign in Jubilees 2:21 on the spring equinox, vernal equinox. Sun is going to rise directly due east, shine in between the two pillars through the doorway, and light up the Holy of Holies right in the center of the temple. Also the same with the tabernacle, lighting that up. And again, Ezekiel 43 is going to describe this right here perfectly. The glory of Yahuwah coming from the east, coming in through the courtyard and lighting up the center. Just like we see on here. The esteem of Yahuwah came into the house by way of the gate facing east. And it brought me into the inner courtyard, and see, the esteem of Yahuwah filled the house. We also see, James 1:16 and 17. There's no change or turning or shifting shadow. We see Psalm 19, 1 through 9. Speaking about the luminaries, they have no speech, but there are words. Their voice is not heard, but their line has gone out through all the earth, tracking the movements of our calendar, the heavenly luminaries that Yahuwah put in charge for keeping these things. And we have Wisdom of Solomon 7, 17 through 19, and also Enoch 74, 12, speaking about the sun, how the sun determines the calendar. The sun and stars determine the calendar. So let me go up to Enoch 74:12. Sun and stars bring in all the years exactly. So there's translations in Enoch 74:12 that will take out sun and stars, and they will insert moon. This is false and inaccurate. Why? Because we see all throughout Enoch 74:12 and the other chapters that speak about the moon, how it's coming in 10 days too soon. So how can a 354-day moon complete the years with 364 days? It's just not possible. Not to mention, we see when they take out sun and stars, they still use the plural they right here for the singular word moon that they insert. That's another clue through the etymology itself, using the plural they. They what? The sun and stars. So the versions that say the moon, and the moon brings on the years, so that they, what do you mean they? It's a singular moon. They is because sun and stars. And let's see. So the calendar is determined by the sun. So the Zadok calendar consists of a 364-day year divided into 7-day weeks and 12 months of 30 days each, except for the one extra day in the last month of each quarter 4 times a year. These are those 4 seasonal intercalated days that we see in Enoch. The calendar accommodates the 365.25 days of the solar cycle that we actually experience and see. The 4 seasons are spring, summer, fall, and winter. When the 364 count has been accomplished as instructed by Enoch and Jubilees and the Dead Sea Scrolls, you will arrive with an extra day for the physical year every year and another day on the 4th year, which actually we're kind of seeing this actually doesn't occur. There's not really a 366 day, but we were going to go into that a bit more as well today. And hopefully Marissa is here to see this, or be here to help present this as well. So, the cycle repeats continually. The divider days are not counted as part of the 7-day week or numbered. They're just lived. This is why we see and live in a 365.25 day world, but count to 364 days to do as Enoch has commanded for the calendar. The calendar accounts for the full year of 365.25 days with the divider day. First day of creation week starts the count of 364 days at the heavenly portal after the spring equinox in Israel, thus keeping the calendar on season every year and the weeks and months perfectly overlapping each year. Day 1 of month 1 will always be on the 4th day of the 7th day creation week. The spring equinox, or Tekufa, it is not the Wednesday of the Roman or Jewish calendar. This true sequence of the 4th day celebrates the creation of the sun and stars and moon as read in Genesis. The 4th day of creation, the luminaries, and is marked by its sign, the straight line shadow. The Zadok day starts at sunrise, or the scriptural day starts at sunrise, celebrating the creation of light, not the beginning of darkness. It is not possible for the Saturday of today to be the 7th day Sabbath continually, week by week, and year by year, because Yahuwah's counting starts from the spring equinox. This is important to note. The weekly 7th day is the day that was made holy, not Saturday marked on the Roman or Jewish calendars. 7th day Sabbath is on a fixed day of the week on the Zadok 364 day counted calendar. Excuse me. It is exactly 52 weeks, not 52 weeks and 2 days, as with the Julian or Gregorian calendar. One needs to remember that on March 20th every year is the spring Tekufa, or equinox. That is the day. That day is the 4th day of a new yearly 7-day week. The day celebrates the creation's 4th day, on which Yahuwah Elohim made the luminaries. The extra day on the equinox is not counted after the 364 day is complete for the full year. So like everything we just had gone over, we see this is creation week from Genesis 1. We see the menorah, we see the spring equinox, we see 4Q324D, which we'll go over really quickly again. Because some people seem to think vacate is talking about this day right here, where it's already showing this is the seasonal intercalated day for the spring. The 31st day of the 12th month is here. Not here where it says vacate. So once again, when we put what it says right here in 394, because this is the missing text where it says vacate up here, this is the missing text. We're going to find, let me get it highlighted here. On the 28th in it is the Sabbath. After that Sabbath, a day is added, and the year is complete in 364 days. This is also going to correlate with Jubilees, chapter 6, verse 30, where the 364-day count is 52 weeks of 7 days. Weekday 2, in it falls the 30th day of the month. Weekday 3 is additional. So, actually, let me get month 12 here up on screen for you guys so I can show you. Let's see. So, let me switch to that real quick. Okay, so what we see, let's see. So month 12, we see the 28th is the last Sabbath of the year. after the Sabbath, that day is added. Then we see the 30th day of the month 12 is weekday 2. That seasonal intercalated day, day 3. And then boom, we get day 4. This is going to line up with Genesis 1. This is going to line up with Jubilees. And we are seeing more and more actually that there is a difference between what Enoch is sharing and what Jubilees is sharing. And that difference is Jubilees is telling us the yearly creation week count, which is the 364-day count we are to go off of. Enoch is showing us the monthly count. So that's where we get the 12 months of 30 days and the 4 seasonal intercalated days. There's going to be this divider day, but there is one for each. So there's the yearly divider day that we use for the weeks because this is when our numbering of days counted. Then there's the monthly one, which is what Enoch is showing us, that's going to separate the monthly count. So just like we had described before, there's 2 364-day counts that we see, but only one we are using for our yearly count, which is what we find in the Dead Sea Scrolls itself. So Enoch and Jubilees correlate, working together. The sons of Zadok at Qumran used both of them to put the calendar together. We see in Ezekiel chapter 44, the sons of Zadok are the ones prescribed by YAHUAH to keep the calendar. Are there any questions, or is there anything anyone would like to add before we move on?
So what you're saying then is that those who say that Enoch and Jubilees contradict each other don't have the big picture of how they complement each other, right?
Yeah, exactly, correct. And that's what I was hoping Marissa would be here for. Hopefully she will join later. But yeah, me and her were, going through these things, and we were seeing, Enoch is describing the solar cycle because he's speaking about the sun and the moon and the stars. So strictly the monthly cycle is what Enoch is showing us. Jubilees is showing us the creation weekly cycle, the yearly count we are to keep, because the counting of days started right there, day 1, when the light was created. But they complement each other because they work together. That's that overlap, that we see with the weeks and the months that happen each year. Hopefully Marissa can show up and we can go through that a little bit deeper, because that's what I wanted to do. But until then, we can just read from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and when she gets here, we can go over that. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting, important find that we found. Oh, go ahead, brother.
I was saying shalom, everybody. But do you not see in the scroll here after the 28th, the last Shabbat of the year? How is the day that's added? How is that not speaking of that 364 day? I mean, that's pretty clear when I'm reading the scroll, as well as how it complements in the other scriptures.
Okay, so like we had just shown, so here, if we go to 4Q324D, column 5, verses 9 through 10. Here, I can just actually open up the PDF I have of it here to show you from the article, or the PDF itself.
Yeah, I was seeing the added text in there, but it says a day is added, and then it talks about that additional day being, it's kind of like the Hebrew idiom, like in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth, and then it goes into explaining it. So like I see the additional vacate text being added from the other scroll, but I see that additional day being specific when it gets to what was already in that scroll, being that 364th day. Because from the 28th day, which is the 361st day of the year, which is the last Sabbath, day 2 of the next week being day 30, which day 31 would be day 364, being that intercalated day, and that added day, which is the third day of that week.
So I see what you're saying. So here is 4Q324D, column 5. So we're going to see right here is where it says vacate, verse 10. But then after this missing text, it continues to go on weekday 2, and it falls. And then we have column 6, the 30th day of the month. Weekday 3 is additional. So this weekday 3 is additional is that 31st day of that 12th month. So it's just, there's this column, there's that separation there from 5 and 6, and then it comes right down here describing that. And notice how it doesn't say, and the year's complete. It goes on to show, the priestly cycle names right here. And it continues to do so. But when we go to, let me go back to the other screen and get it here up so you can see it. Where is it? One second, let me find it here. I forgot it's in the links over here in the other chat. That's not it. Where is it? All right, hold on one second. I can just get it here on my article.
No problem. I can wait.
Brian, I have a question for you with what you're asking. Are you asking or basically saying that that fourth intercalary day that comes at the end of each season is the day out of time, the divider day, rather than the equilux? Is that what you're thinking?
No, I'm thinking that specifically within the two scrolls in that 4Q MMT stuff, that the added day after the 28th, the last Sabbath of the year, that added day is the final intercalated day that it's speaking of, that day 364 for the third day of the week on that day. That's what I see in those scrolls.
So are you thinking that equilux, the divider day, is the last day of the year? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't believe there is. I don't believe that there is a 365 divider day at all. Actually, I don't see that in the scrolls of the text anywhere.
Then how do we reconcile?
That's. Oh, go ahead.
Then how do we reconcile a 365-day solar cycle with the 364-day year?
I don't believe there is a 365-day solar cycle with what Abba says.
Well, that's where we're going to have to agree to disagree, because we see from vernal equinox to vernal equinox, there's 365 days in between them. We see this with the sun's analemma as well. We see this with Aaron, Ryan, Alan, all of these brothers and sisters who have been tracking the equinox themselves for decades. They always catch it on the Gregorian date of March 20th. So here's going to be the fragments of 4QMMT. Specifically, we're going to look at this one, 4Q394. This is the text on that scroll right here. So this is speaking about that last Sabbath of the year, that 28th day. So a Sabbath in it, after the Sabbath, a day is added, because these three dots mean just like a word is missing. So a day is added. And then the year is complete in 364 days. Of course, the word 4 is missing, but we know it's 364. So where's the rest of those monthly day counts? In here, we don't see that, because there's two different cycles we are seeing, just like we showed here, column 5, from 324D itself. Vacate, what is missing in here is what we found in 394. But we see here, 4Q324D, it continues on after vacate to therefore describe the 30th day of that 12th month and then that 31st day of that 12th month. This isn't solidifying, that day it's later talking about. It doesn't do that anywhere else in the scroll. So it's saying on the 28th in it is the Sabbath. On vacate, which means after that Sabbath, a day is added, and then it continues. So after 394, we're going to see it continues on. After it says the 364 day count has been completed, we see weekday 2 in it falls the 30th day of the month. Weekday 3 is additional. This is going to line up with Genesis 1 verses 1 through 2, like we see here. Let me get to it. So right here, this Bible translation, BSB, actually got it correct. We see creation, the time before the counting of time, and the first day being marked when let there be light, when that light comes to be. So right here, Genesis 1, 1 through 2, this is a time before the counting of days, because the counting of days started right here. As this Bible version even points out, it even shows the separation of the days and what happened on these days, which is really excellent. So we cannot deny, even though, yes, I see that you deny it, but we see there is a void of time before the counting of days, which started when the light came to be, as this is our standard for the rest of the week.
Hey, Jeremy.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Jeremy, have you, I hopped on like 30 minutes into the call, but have you shared the whole like north scenario yet? Like when the sun has to go down to the north to then go to the east through the fourth gate? Because like that really helped me understand that day at a time better, because the sun has to go back down through the north. Now, we live on a flat realm, and the north is not on top of us, it's in the middle of us. So the sun, when it's circling through the constellations throughout the year, it breaks that cycle to go down to the north, because the north is in the middle. It's not on the outer or on the top of a globe. It's in the middle. So it does break the cycle of the constellations it goes throughout an entire year. And it needs time to do that. But it's not the time within the allotted time of a year.
Is it not written that the sun and stars do not advance or delay their position a single day throughout the year?
Yeah, because they don't, because that's exactly what they were designed to do. They were designed to compensate for this division of time before the counting of days. So, and actually, Miranda, were you able to make a video of what you were describing? Because
No,
what
I
she's
was
talking
not.
about.
I was
Oh,
not
go ahead.
able to go. I was not able to go to the store. It's been a kind of a tough week, but Enoch 72:5, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and so is guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the whole face of heaven. And this way he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the fourth. So there, right there in Enoch, you have it describing the end of that allotted time to begin in the first month in the great portal, which is the fourth. It has to break the cycle in order to go through the north to start the cycle over again. And Enoch does back that up.
I heard, I believe it was Marissa. I think Katrina posted the video on TikTok. It was either there or in here where I had seen the video, and I do comprehend how y'all are explaining it happening, but it's a cyclical cycle, and with even with some of the things I've read, which I've posted some of the links when I had first posted some of those pseudo-epigraphal things concerning the first day, because where the first day is in that clip you showed, Jeremy, up there, the first day should be from verse 1 as well. That should be included in there. I won't get into all that right now, but if you add that extra day and have the 365, that throws the entire cycle off, because 364 is a multiple of 7. That extra day will throw off all the Sabbaths and everything, and it's not even mathematically sound. And
it's zero, Brian. It's not counted.
Yes, it's zero.
Why? From vernal equinox to vernal equinox, there are 365 days. However, that day in Yah's counting is not counted. It's Genesis 1:2. Like he divides the seasons.
But you are counting it. You are counting it.
We are
Please don't
not
step up.
counting it. It's a
We're not.
0 day.
There's only
an
7
uncounted day.
Right. There's 7 weeks in a 364 year. That is not counted.
It's
but
not
you
counted.
are by having it there. You're counting it. That's going to be the issue, because I've counted. I've counted 364 days. I have counted 364 days for the last 4 years. Now, I did have to make one single adjustment only on the Sabbath day from the scroll you all showed me. That's the only thing I've had to make. And Abba's calendar is so precise that even with that adjustment I needed to make, I just switched that day over and it still works perfectly. That's how perfect he is.
Were you tracking equinox?
Are you going off the equinox?
Yes, I went off the equinox with you all. I'm on the same calendar your guys are on, and all I did was his calendar is so like today is Shabbat for me too. It's
how
the
did
same.
we get 365 days in the year? And Erin's been doing it for a very long time. She's been getting 365 days. So how are you getting 364? You must be like miscounting somewhere.
All I'm doing is following what I find in the text. That's what I'm doing. And I'm asking you all where y'all are getting that 365 day, because eventually you're going to be off.
No.
That's actually incorrect. Eventually you're going to be off, because if you do a 364 count only, you will float backwards. Sure, it's going to be all right for about 6-7 years, but then you're going to slowly drift backwards from that.
Your Passover will be Yeah, in the winter.
Yeah,
If there's only 360.
But that's what people keep saying, that like the stars are still rising in the east, and at the turn of the year they're setting exactly in the west, like with perfect justice, just like he says. That's why I'm like show me where, because I haven't witnessed it. I have not witnessed it anywhere in creation. All I'm doing is doing what his word says.
You could take the calendar and you can count the dates yourself.
Yeah, we just went over all the evidence of it. So I'm going to show you more right here on screen. So Job 3:6.
See what you're showing me, and I'm seeing what I see and what I've experienced while observing this. I'm on my 4th year of doing it, and like I said, it's so perfect. I'm grateful for y'all showing me that the Shabbat, they started it on the first day 4, and only having to make that one single adjustment. It's still working out. It's so mathematically sound and perfect, and only Father can do that.
How are you doing it? How are you doing it? And were you citing the equinox and then moving?
No, it's not me. All I'm doing is taking what I am seeing in Enoch, Jasher, Jubilees, and scriptures. All I'm doing is following what's in the text.
5 days. Jasher even says there's 365
days. It's hard to hear when you're both talking at the same time.
She's stepping over me, so
understand that.
So, all right, 1 second. So yes, Jasher. First of all, we don't consider Jasher accurate, but it does say there's 365 days in there as well. So on screen, as we can see, Genesis 5:23 through 24 is speaking about how Enoch walked 365 years on the earth. That's an allusion to the 365-day sun cycle that we see. There, we have shown you the proof in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So let me show you one more thing.
Brian, if I may, how do you how does the year restart? So you think he goes from 364 to then going straight into day 1 of the next year? Because how do you explain 72:5 then, where it says that the sun has to go through the north? Because how do you get to the middle unless you break the cycle to then start time again? Because there does have to be time for the sun to go through the north to then get to the east again to start time.
Yeah, it does that in 364 days. And because Enoch 82 tells us where to put. Enoch 82 tells us to put the intercalated days in the 4th portal, the 6th portal, the 1st portal, and the 3rd portal. And on day 364, on that intercalated day, when the sun sets, it's 9 parts night. And by the time it rises, that's the next day, and that's when the sun's mounting up. You're going to get the straight line shadow, and then it's going to be that's when it's 9 parts a day. But through that is when it's already traveled. It's traversed that path on that 364 from when it sets on the final day. That's where you read it in. It's verse 30 something in 72, and that's when the cycle starts over, where the sun mounts up that you're talking about to start that cycle over again.
Yeah, but that's equal day, equal night. That's not equal. That's not equinox. That's not day 364. It can't be, because the straight line shadow is the marker for the equinox, and the other instructions are for the equilux. That's why it's a wheel upon a wheel.
Correct. And if you look on screen, so from March 20th to March 19th, what's it say? The cycle of the sun is this right here. This is what we see right there. Enoch 72:5, the sun going to the north, shining in the portal, the unnamed portal in the face of heaven. Then in that same way, it goes to the 4th portal, marking day 4 of that week. So while the sun is going into the north, because it's setting in the west, going to the north to rise into the east in that same way. It's taking that line to shine into the face of heaven, and it takes that same line it just took and goes right to the fourth portal, the fourth gate. So,
well, then it's because what about when Bethula rises in the east? When Bethula rises in the east with a Viv in it, which today it's known as Virgo, and that it's the lower right star in Bethula. Yes, speak of today. Yeah. That is always coming up in the springtime, and at the turn of the year, 7 months when it's time to blow, the shofar for Yom Teruah, that's when she is setting in the west at the turn of the year, exactly 180 degrees.
So that's exactly what we found in our findings. I wish Marissa was here, but we found Spica rising April 3rd.
She's coming in now.
Exactly. We have all the signs in the stars. We have the signs in the sun, and they're lining up with this method exactly. We have Marissa, who's really an expert with the moon.
Yeah, she's coming in now. I just called her.
Tracked that it is actually 11 days off each year, not 10. Why is it 11? Because this divider day that occurs, that is not counted in the counting of years. We don't count it. We see right here on screen, go to any date calculator you like. We see exactly what's going on here. We see in the Dead Sea Scrolls itself, 365 talking about Enoch walking the earth 365 years. We see 4Q324D, 4Q394, that extra day that is added after the last Sabbath of the year. I don't know how many more proofs we can show you. Genesis 1 through 2, all of these things. And you're just saying, I don't see it. Well, I don't know what you don't see because we see it everywhere. So everywhere we see it. We see this marking day 4 constantly. And, I don't understand unless you're doing some kind of miscount somewhere. Just like the other sister was doing, she was twisting and contorting the Gregorian calendar to make it fit some 364-day count, which we don't actually see. We experience 365 days, just like alluded to all throughout scriptures. This is not anything we're adding. This is what the text is saying. It's what we see out of the text. It's what we see all over the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's what we see in the count of physical days. It's what we see in the analemma of the sun. I don't know what else proof you would like, but we will have to agree to disagree about it, because I can share these things till I'm blue in the face and people, take it to the Father. That's all I'm saying. This is what we've discovered. We've shown the scriptures to back it up. We've shown the Dead Sea Scrolls to back it up. We've shown scientific evidence to back it up. All of these things. So, I don't know what
Do you
else.
have any do you have any handwritings that you're tracking 364 days only? Do you have any proof of that?
Yeah, I've been doing it for,
Okay, you've been doing it.
I was wondering if I could see a chart that you've done just for
Katrina. I thought you had. I've got it on TikTok. I thought you've seen them. You liked some of the videos. Did you not watch them?
No, I didn't see one that you are saying that there's 364 days only, and that you documented it. I'm saying you said you're doing this for, well, first you said 5 years. Now you're saying 4 years. Do you have those documented charts that you're saying says that there's 364 days only?
I started. I've got on my YouTube or on my TikTok. I have that I started April 2nd, 23:10 p.m. at 2022, and I started because this is when I was using the sun, moon, and the stars all together when I had started it. I started when Bethula rose in the east with Spica, when the sun was setting, it was at a crescent. It was setting with the sun at the time, and that's when I started to count, because I thought that the new moon, this is before I learned that Rosh Chodesh and YAHUAH, I didn't know that they weren't the same. So I had started my count there, and then I started making adjustments. All I was doing from the text was counting 1 through 364, and as I was learning, his calendar is so precise. All you got to do is make those adjustments as you learn, and it fits. But I can show you.
Yeah, I'll see the documents. Sure.
I'd be interested as well. This is Ellie.
Hello, Marissa.
Shabbat Shalom, family.
What's going on?
Shabbat Shalom.
So what we're talking about here, Marissa. Yeah, Marissa, Brian is saying that he doesn't see a 365th day. He's saying that he started in, did you say 2022? You started using the sun, the moon, and the stars, and were you using the equinox then?
I didn't know about I didn't know how to measure the 18 parts of a day, and I didn't know about the straight line shadow then. All I used was where I was at when I started was I learned that Bethula was the name of Virgo, or used to be the name of Virgo. So I started when Bethula rose with the Aviv star, because we're supposed to start the first day of the first month, and it is in Aviv. And that's why I did that, what we read in Exodus 12.
I have friends that do that. They're like full moon, new moon people.
I don't use go by the moon anymore. I mean, I don't, that's just when I started then. I waited for Bethula to rise with Aviv, and I started the count. And it was actually when I made the adjustment, all of this, it was like 10 or 11 days off. It's in my notes. I'd have to look through them all, but it was exactly as Enoch says, it's at least, it's 10 days off from, but yeah, you'll be able, when I do the video and everything, you'll be able to see it in my notes.
I don't know if it
You
just cut
blanked
out
out
there,
there for a
Brian, for
minute.
you, but you were like, Bethula will be 10 days off, and then you stopped talking. Were you saying something else?
Oh, yeah, no. When I started with Bethula, now because I used the moon, when I had to make the adjustment, once I learned about the straight line shadow and all that, once I learned about that, I saw that 10-day difference. Since from April 2nd at 2310, because I used the moon in the count to start as day 1, when I had to make that adjustment, I believe it was. Hold on, let me find it in my notes. It was on.
Welcome, Sheila.
Shalom and welcome, Sheila.
I had all the dogs.
Sheila, if you want to talk or say something, that's awesome. But could you put your mic on mute if you don't? Just press the mic button so that you're muted.
Brian, I was a little late to the party here. So when you say Bethula, are you talking about the Spica star, or is this a different star?
When I'm talking about Bethula, I'm talking about the Virgo constellation, and Spica is in Bethula or Virgo. It's I believe it's when you're looking at the 4 primary stars in the body of it, that bottom one. I have a video of that one too.
Okay, so I'm just trying to grasp your concept here. So what is the sign for the start of the year that you're looking for?
I was looking for the, we know that 9 parts day and 9 parts night is on day 364. And I was looking how to find out when the 9 parts day and 9 parts night was, because we'd know we were either at day 364 or day 183, depending on if we were in the spring or the fall. That's the specific sign I'm looking for, and everybody is saying it's the straight line shadow.
Right.
So I think they're saying that it's the equinox, not the straight line shadow.
The equal day and equal night is not the equinox. The equinox is not equal day and night. It's off a few minutes.
That's correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's when the day starts ruling over the night. They're not equal.
Yeah, you'll never find the equal day, equal night on an equinox. That's a different day. The straight line shadow is the equinox.
All right, so Brian, when do you see this? So is Bethula the top star of Virgo, and like what time of day are you looking at that? Like right at sunset, an hour after sunset, or at sunrise? When are you looking for this?
When I saw Bethula rise, it was 2310, which was 11:10 p.m. in 2022 is when I had started. But I've made all my adjustments to get to where I am today, because that day was, I think it was 10 or 11 days off.
Okay, what day out of the year was that?
It was 4/2/2022.
So that would be on a Passover.
Yeah, I think there is some credence to that observation. I recognize that as well, that it is 2 weeks exactly after the equinox date. And so when I saw that, I feel like the barley is Aviv, and that's the heavenly sign for that by Passover.
Yeah.
That's a sign in the new year, Brian. The sun brings in the new year, and the stars are a witness.
Yeah, that's correct.
Exodus 12 does not tell us when to bring in the new year at all. I've read it I've heard this twice in 2 days, and I've read it in 3 or 4 different translations, and there's nothing in Exodus 12 that tells us when to start the year.
Yeah, we only get that. We only get that in Enoch, Jubilees, and the Dead Sea Scrolls.
When I was doing lunar, the story that we were told was that when Yah said to Moses, "This is the first month of the year to you," that he had him looking up at the heavens and seeing the moon. But that's not in the passage anywhere.
It's not.
Yeah, they definitely. Yeah, no.
To unlearn that thinking.
Yeah, and that's what we see with Alan and Aaron. They've been tracking the straight line shadow or the spring equinox for at least a decade each. And both of them together always have tracked it on the Gregorian date of March 20th. It's that straight line shadow. But we see that same thing going on in scriptures and at the Dead Sea Scrolls, is because that morning, the temple, it would light up, because on the equinox, that's the only day the sun would shine perfectly in between both of those pillars. They would know exactly what they're looking for. It would shine perfectly in there and light up the Holy of Holies on the equinox. So by that morning, they had already known. They didn't have to track a shadow all day like we do today to get these things. They already had it set up in the temple and the tabernacle. So as soon as the sun rises, they're like, yep, this is day 4. Boom, started.
Yeah. You can't count the days of the year by the stars, Brian. The stars are only a witness. It's the sun that brings in the year with the equinox on the straight line shadow.
You know, when I was looking, I know where the sun rises here on the property where I'm at, and that 20th day of March, which I'm not partial to the Gregorian calendar, but there's a lot of people that couldn't process anything if I told them to look for when the sun rises due east. But it definitely came through a different gate, if you want to call it that. It rose due east, and the day before it rose over to the side some. And so that's my understanding of how the sun tells us when to start the first month of the year. Not the first week, but the first month of the new year.
Yeah. It's because of that overlap, or the 2 separate counts that we're seeing. It's because the starting of the monthly count starts according to the sun, which was made to keep these things on day 4.
And having 2 364-day counts gets people confused, is what it does. Because so many people were starting with the 364-day, the beginning of the month and the beginning of the year is the same day. So adjusting for a few days before, it's like sometimes our minds have challenges with making that and recognizing that they both work 364. But you know, because that's what Enoch, I know people that start with Enoch and they're like, they start counting that day that is the equinox. They start counting their day 1 there. And so their Sabbaths go that way through the year. And so they count to 7, and that's when their Sabbath is, and they go through the year that way because they don't see the book of Jubilees at this point as having any kind of authority in their lives.
Yeah, and if we read Jubilees, it clearly says that Jubilees is for days, Sabbaths, seasons. It doesn't say it's for weeks. And if you read Enoch, when he's explaining the equal night, equal day, that's the beginning of the weeks. It's not the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year starts with the sun coming out on the 4th day in the 4th portal.
Yeah. I never caught that, Ken. That's interesting. It's
Can you repeat that, please?
That's an interesting delineation, Ken.
If you read Jubilees, you won't find that the sun is there for weeks. It says it's for Sabbaths, it's for days, it's for seasons, it's for Jubilees, it's for Jubilee of Sabbath or something like that. There's no expression in there that actually says it's for weeks. The week starts when there's equal day and equal night, which is a different time to when the sun comes up out of the 4th portal, because that's already the 4th day of the week. Okay, so you work out your Sabbaths from the beginning of the year, from when the sun comes up. However, the week's count starts when there's equal day and equal night. But then you're looking at equal day, equal night. Where is equal day, equal night? Because wherever you are in the world, equal day, equal night is all going to happen at a different time. However, the straight line that is given to us as a sign by the sun can be seen throughout the world. So it's the straight line sign that everyone can see throughout the world that starts the year, but it doesn't start the weeks. It starts the year and the count from that for your Sabbaths and your seasons and your days and your jubilees, etc.
I think I would amend that just a little bit. I think it, like what he said to Moses, this month is the beginning of months to you. That is the first month of the year to you. And so I would amend it just that little bit and say that the straight line shadow is what will bring all of his people on track throughout the world, if for some reason they're in different places.
Yeah.
Concerning the timetable of where they were in Exodus 12 right there, that is also one of the feast days, because, 2 feast days out of the year, we are commanded to start them at the evening, which is Pesach, and then it is Yom HaKippurim, so the Day of Atonement, from days between 9 and 10 at the evenings to 9 and 10.
Brian, I need to. I know where you're going with this, and the answer is quite simple. To be clean for a Sabbath day or any day, especially the Sabbath day, and the Day of Atonement being especially an important day to be clean, you need to appear in the morning clean. So you need to observe the Sabbath or the day that you want to observe the next day, for example, by keeping yourself clean the night before. So you would observe the Sabbath day on the night before the Sabbath, i.e. you're not going to have sexual relations or have a bodily discharge or have anything to do with you appearing the next day as being unclean, because then you would have to go away, get washed, and you will not be clean for the morning. You would have to wait the whole day until the evening until you become clean again. So once you understand the rules of cleanliness, you will then understand why on Day of Atonement it clearly says that you need to observe it from evening to evening, leading people to believe that the day is from evening to evening. It's not. It's an observance of cleanliness.
Yeah.
No, the day starts in the day. I haven't contested that at all. I haven't been allowed to explain anything, and I'm not discouraged in explaining it, but that's the only word I know how to use, because what I was attempting to do was go line up on line, precept upon precept, because as far as I can see the full puzzle piece that I'm allowed to see, and there are still some missing things that I do need to add to what I'm allowed to see, but I was going to try to piece by piece explain to you all where I was at, but I can see that really isn't going over very well, so I'm just going to sit and listen.
Well, I apologise if I jumped on you too quickly there, Brian. That's me just getting carried away with everything. I apologise deeply.
Yeah, go ahead and explain, brother.
Yes, please.
I'm just gonna sit and listen, and y'all can do your presentation. I'll sit quietly here and listen to what you all have to say.
Okay. Yeah. So, Marissa, are you free right now to be able to go over some of the stuff we were talking about? How Enoch's describing the solar cycle, Jubilees is describing the yearly cycle, and we use them both together, which is why we see some people wanting to do, the Tekufa, we see the straight line shadow, then they do it the next day. It's because they're kind of confused on what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm
maybe,
here.
Marissa, could you do the, Jeremy, could you pull up her pictures? Maybe you could explain it a little bit better on here.
Yeah, I don't mind presenting those. Jeremy, do you wanna like just give me a second and I'll send you them in like order what I'm gonna speak on?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Jeremy, I just messaged you with those.
Okay. Let me get them.
When you get the first picture up, I mean, there's only 3, so I'll just like tell you when to pan to the next one.
Hold on, I got to take them from Facebook to Telegram. 1 second. Okay. Did you want me to start with the menorah one first?
Yeah. But I just sent you a message and asked if I could add one.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And all right. Because like that first one, like there's 2 in that, and really you just want to zoom into like one of them, if you don't mind.
You mean the menorah one?
Yeah, just zoom into one of them so like it's pretty big and people can see the numbers there. Okay, cool. All right, so look, see that picture? Yeah. Okay. So we had a brother Sean sent this drawing to us. That this was a drawing that Yah gave him when he drew it up. And when he presented the calendar that he understood to us, I found this picture just so intriguing. And so I'd like to bring your attention to the top of the menorah here. And so we have 7 branches, where the middle one is number 4. And we see this like bright yellow straight line that goes right up to number 4 in the middle. And so this is the understanding that we all are in agreement on, that the straight line shadow makes is the sign for the 4th day of creation week. And so what perplexed me, though, was that if you look in the middle here at these numbers, 6 is really bolded, but it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have these little boxes with the spaces in between the branches. But what was so perplexing to me was that this yellow straight line went between gates 3 and 4. And so oftentimes when people only consider the solar cycle, they are believing that the equinox is day 0 and thus beginning their year the day after. But my question was, how can both of these coincide? How can they coexist together where the equinox is day 0 or is between the 3rd and the 4th gate, and yet also is the 4th day of creation week? And so I'd just like to read to you guys Enoch 72:5. And the chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the heaven. Now, whenever we read this particular verse, we understand that this is a day in and of itself, where the sun is returning through the north and shining in the face of the heaven. And so we can extrapolate that this is day 0 because Enoch goes on to count 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31, and he counts 364 days. And it has to be a day 0 because we're told it's 364 days of the year. So 0 doesn't have a numerical value, but it does have a place in the counting of days. And so I'm sure you're thinking at this point, like, but Marissa, that's not the day 0 that we've all been understanding. Well, family, it is day 0 of the solar cycle. And so, Jeremy, if you could you go to the next picture, please? So there are 2 counts. And the very first count I have here is creation week that gives us the Sabbath day. And so when we recognize day 0 on creation week, which is 316, it moves the equinox into that place of day 4 of the week. And this is the only way that those 2 counts can coincide and be true at the same time. So you'll see in the second section, solar cycle and the seasons. If we don't have the solar cycle in this position, then our seasons will become dislodged. Where if we read Enoch 72 and we think that we should be beginning with the equinox specifically, well, then Enoch 72's seasonal days, the quarter division leaders will be dislodged. But this is a separate cycle. Enoch was given the cycles of the luminaries. And so he's describing to us the solar cycle. Now, creation week and the Sabbath day, the references that we can make really come from Jubilees, where in Jubilees we're told to count 52 weeks of days. And so there are actually 3 wheels going on here. So we see the first wheel, the most outer wheel. Jeremy, you can pan to the next picture. The most outer wheel is creation week. And so creation week begins with Genesis 1, 1 through 2, when the earth was formless and void and darkness was upon the face of the deep. That is our divider day. And so that lands on 316, and it's after the 52nd Sabbath of the year. So we are counting 52 weeks of days from creation week. And there are multiple scriptures written in Jubilees where it says from the beginning of creation, from the time of creation, giving credence to this creation week and the count of it being important. And so when we recognize that there's 2 different wheels going on, we see that middle wheel is the solar cycle that began on the 4th day when the sun, the moon, and the stars were made. And so that is that straight line day, the 4th day of creation week. What's really interesting, though, is that we also know of the prophetic year spoken of in Daniel is 360 days. And those days are counted between the equinox and the equilux. So that is 321 to 315. That gives us 360 days for our prophetic year. And now I wholeheartedly understand where our brothers and sisters in Messiah choose to reckon their days by the solar cycle. However, I'd like to implore you to consider this. The scripture where in Ezekiel 8, where the priests have their backs to the temple and they're facing the east, bowing to the sun. They're worshiping the sun as a luminary. And these are what our lunar calendar brothers and sisters are also doing, except with the moon. And they worship the moon on the new moon days, and they blow the shofar at the moon, and they're looking at her and honoring her in that way. And so when we recognize, though, that there are multiple cycles that are overlaid here for the calendar, and when we recognize that creation week comes first, we are no longer going to reckon our days by honoring the creation, but rather we'll be honoring the Creator and all that He did.
Wow, Marissa. Oh, sorry, you
Amazing.
just said that so well. Wow.
Yeah, except for I'm lost, if you don't mind. Where do the scriptures show us that the 360-day count for the prophetic year begins at the equinox, or the first day of the first month?
Well, so that's going to be the 12 months of 30 days without those 4 intercalary days. So that's why it's the prophetic year. Enoch speaks about it a little bit, I know.
I understand the reasoning of it, because Sean and I have spent quite a bit of time getting a handle on the way each other have understood calendars since I was lunar. So, I mean, we've known each other for a year and a half or so, and we've never had any arguments or problems with anybody trying to bend each other to take their view, you know. But I still have not seen a scriptural basis for saying that the 360-day prophetic year begins with the time the sun, with the equinox or the straight line day, and ends at right before the equilux or at the equilux. And so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some scriptural basis.
Yeah, you know, Ali, I don't believe that there is, because either Daniel's skipping days in the count, or it's between. I feel like it's like whether you say it one way or the other, it's going to be an inference either way. But otherwise, there would be 5 days missing. So if we only ever use 364 days, then and we only subtract those 4 seasonal leaders, then we're going to be at 361 days. So, and that's not the prophetic year.
Yeah, I don't understand that part either. I'm just looking for scriptural basis, because I don't see Daniel as doing anything besides sticking with what Enoch said and about not counting those days. And I'm sure that he understood. I mean, he was definitely considered one of the wisest men in Babylon, and he understood his own calendar before he went in, and he understood the prophetic the way that Enoch explained it, I'm very sure. And then, of course, he had access to Jubilees as well, because Moses had written that, at least according to the way I'm understanding things now. So I guess I still need something to show me that that's the way that it was understood somewhere by somebody that's got some authority besides speculative conjecture.
Yeah, well, if you find it, I am open. I am all ears to hearing it, to how to reckon that. I don't find that anywhere in scripture though, as to like some direction of how to count that.
How to count the prophetic year?
Yeah.
I thought it already explained in Enoch that people would go wrong because they counted all 364 instead of using 360. And I understood that to be the basis of the prophetic year and the 4 divider days being put out.
Okay, so where's the day 0? Like, where is that not counted?
Well, that's evident in Jubilees as well, is it not?
So the day 0 is going to be Enoch 72:5, where he's showing that cycle of the sun that's going on. And then we see after that it's going into gate 4. So that's where I think he would start the 360-day count, because starting on day 4, then you come back around, boom, those first 4 days, they're not going to be counted in the year, but they do make up the year. So I think Enoch is telling us that by showing us the cycle of the sun and how it's going into that gate into the north.
Okay, well, when somebody gets that written up so that I can see it as well as hear it, maybe I can understand it better. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. I really appreciate that. And I don't have all the answers. I'm not a teacher. This is something that just was like came to me one day and understanding. And if I'm wrong about the prophetic year, I reserve the right to be wrong about that part. But I think that what is really important is the first 2 counts that I explained in understanding how to reckon the calendar.
And it was beautifully put. Praise Yah, Marissa. Thank you again for sharing that.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to discount. I really appreciate what you did share. I was just kind of stuck with the other question. So thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So because I didn't realize that this one little thing, which it doesn't bother me. Like, I just didn't know that. So whenever we start the count on the first day of the year, the equinox, from the equilux forward is not counted in the year, right?
No, that is counting. That's where we start our counting of the 364-day year.
The day after the equilux.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Because I just got confused when Miss Ellie was talking. I got confused. I thought I heard something about that those 3 or 4 days weren't counted in the year. And I was like, wait a minute. Okay. I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, no
Somebody
problem.
did say that.
So that's what we went over many times before. We're starting because the counting of days started right there in Genesis 1, and it's shown by, day 1, day 2, day 3. Clearly, those are counted days. So that's where we're starting our 364-day count for the year. That's according to Jubilees 6, verse 30, where the 52 weeks of 7 days are making up the weekly or the yearly counts. There's 2 different 364-day counts. So there's the monthly one, and then there's the yearly one as well, which is the weekly one. One of them is the one that we use. There's just 2 because the months start on day 4. So there's that second count. Let me get back to here.
Are you talking about the overlap?
Yeah, exactly. That overlap that we're going to see at the head of each yearly cycle. And then I also wanted to start getting into reading the Dead Sea Scrolls as well. And I'd asked in chat before, if people are interested in it. And yeah, everyone seems to be very interested on going over the Dead Sea Scrolls. Excuse me. So, yeah. I wanted to read from Florentino Garcia Martinez's version because he shows, clear distinctions where additions and authors' insertions were made. And I wanted to, just go over like a little bit at a time together as a group so we can all, also look through all these things through scriptures as well. And maybe, one of us will point out something else another doesn't see. So let me get all this cleared out. So before I go on, is there any questions or any other questions or anything else anybody would like to add? And, feel free to stop and ask questions if you have one. No problem. We are always here to help answer questions. Exactly, Ken. There has to be a day zero. That's where our counting starts. That's where numerology counts. They start at zero. And if we didn't, we would float backwards from that straight line shadow each year until, we're trying to do first fruits of wheat in the winter. You can't do that. All right, so, excuse me. So here we're going to see, here, actually, let me share this link so everybody is able to read along if they would like. And this is also, it's already linked in our other chat group as well. So it's going to be the Dead Sea Scrolls translated, the Qumran text in English, the authoritative new translation of the Dead Sea Scrolls, complete in one volume. And this is Florentino Garcia Martinez. I've used a lot of his work in my article as well, because like I said, he shows clear distinctions where insertions and things like that are made. So as you can see, this is like an online book, which is really awesome. Free to anybody who would like to read it, really. So we see, all the table of contents here. We got the introduction and all that, which goes into the history over everything. I think, there's some really interesting things in here in the introduction. But I wanted to start here at the community rules so we can just get right into it, because there's a lot in the introduction. And it's going to take a while to go over. But of course, feel free to read it on your own time. Really fascinating information. So again, the table of contents. As you can see, there is a lot of books in the Dead Sea Scroll. So let me go to Here we go. So this is going to be the community rule, or here they call it the rule of the community, 1QS. So meaning that was found in Cave 1 of Qumran. And I can just read a little bit out of this introduction here. I wonder if can everybody see it pretty clearly? All right. Sorry, just reading the chat there. And yeah, no worries. I think you did an excellent presentation there, Marissa. Yeah, praise Yah. All right, so this chapter contains those texts which can be called rules. Texts that serve to establish the group or groups for which they are intended. These writings are not restricted to listing specific regulations concerning the way of life to be followed by the group, to describing the internal hierarchical organization, to setting out disciplinary procedures, or how to associate with those who are not members of the sect. Yeah. So they include, in fact, much else besides theological essays. Sorry, that they split that word up. Strange. Essays, meditation on biblical history, exegetical commentaries, recommendations on moral issues, and even unmistakably liturgical topics. This unique library form, previously unknown in ancient Judaism, was to develop extensively within early Christianity, they say, and in later monastic communities. These rules are unquestionably the most typical of all the documents from the Qumran library. And yes, there was also, Damascus document and community rules found in Egypt or the land of Onias as well. They say the same things. Further solidifying and establishing that Temple of Onias that was right there in Egypt at the same time as the Second Temple in Jerusalem. Only it was run by true Zadok priests, not usurpers. All right. So the rule of the community. So this is column 1. So for the instructor, fragmented out, book of the rule of the community, in order to seek Elohim with all one's heart and with all one's soul, in order to do what is good and just in his presence, as commanded by means of the hand of Moses and his servants the prophets, in order to love everything which he selects and to hate everything that he rejects, in order to keep oneself at a distance from all evil, and to become attached to all good works, to bring out the truth, justice, and uprightness on the earth, and not walk in the stubbornness of a guilty heart. Excuse me. Make the words larger. Yeah, let me, how's that? Let me see, yeah. Oops, I didn't mean to scroll that way. Let me see if I can get this one page there in the picture, so you know where we're reading at. how's that? Are you able to see it better? Awesome. Let me get it a bit more, just in case. All right, so where was I? So to bring about truth, justice, and uprightness on earth, and not to walk in the stubbornness of a guilty heart, and of a lecherous eyes, performing every evil, in order to welcome into the covenant of kindness all those who freely volunteer to carry out Elohim's decrees, so as to be united in the counsel of Elohim and walk in perfection in his sight, complying with all revered things concerning the regulated times of their stipulations, in order to love all the sons of light, each one according to his lot in Elohim's plan, and to detest all the sons of darkness. Yep. Oops, I did not. I meant to highlight that. The sons of darkness, the usurpers, the ones who took over and usurped the true Zadok priesthood. So each one in accordance with his blame, in Elohim's vindication. All those who submit freely to his truth will convey all their knowledge and their energies and their riches to the community of Elohim in order to refine their knowledge in the truth of Elohim's decrees and marshal their energies in accordance with his perfect path, and all their riches in accordance with his just counsel. So pretty interesting. They're talking about, coming together, with their energies and all these things. This is more to do with, cymatics and sonoluminescence, things of that nature, energies, frequencies, vibrations, all these things were created by Yahuwah that the enemy has twisted, and now they use it for evil. So they shall not stray from anyone of all of Elohim's orders concerning their appointed times. So some allusions to the calendar, not straying from the appointed times. They shall not advance their appointed times, nor shall they retard any of their feasts. Yep. And they shall not veer from his reliable precepts in order to go either to the right or to the left. And all those who enter into the rule of the community shall establish a covenant before Yahuwah Elohim in order to carry out all that he commands, in order not to stray from following him for any fear, dread, or grief that might occur during the dominion of Belial. Again, we see Paul says the same statement. He calls him Belial. Why? Because he was associated with this community. Brother Ken, can you remember the rich young ruler was told if he wanted to be perfect, sell everything and give to the poor, i.e., join the Qumran community? Yeah, absolutely. That's it, brother, right there. So, when they enter the covenant, the priests and the Levites shall bless the Elohim of salvation and all the works of his faithfulness. And all those who enter the covenant shall repeat after them, Amen, Amen. And we see, so instead of using vacate, they use the word blank here in this translation. Yeah, exactly, Claire. We were discussing the community rule and how we should all behave together and come together, you know? Yeah, the community rule. Yes, sister. In this version, they call it the rule of the community, but yes, it's community rule. I'm on page 21. No, I'm on page, it says page 2 here. Oh, you're on page 21. Sorry. All right, apologies. So the priests shall recite the just deeds of Elohim and his mighty works, and they shall proclaim all his merciful favors towards Israel. And the Levites shall recite the sins of the children of Israel, and their blame, and all their blame worthy transgressions, and their sins during the dominion of Belial. Interesting terminology. And all those who enter the covenant shall confess after them, and they shall say, we have acted sinfully, we have transgressed. So we have transgressed the dry with the moist mercilessly. Oops, sorry, no. Gotta go over to this page. Apologies. I was like, that doesn't make sense. So we have transgressed, we have sinned, we have acted irreverently. We and our fathers before us, inasmuch as we walk in the opposite direction to the precepts of truth and justice. And it's fragmented out here. His judgment upon us and upon our fathers. Notice how he has similar writing here to what Paul is describing as well. You know, doing opposite of what truth and justice is, meaning his law. You know, we do opposite of it even though we don't want to. It's just that sin we were born into, unfortunately. Yeah, the written one. So this is Garcia Martinez version. I believe you can find it on Amazon or somewhere online. I think someone had shared it before. But this is not Michael Wise. This is not Giza Vermes. This is Florentino Garcia Martinez version. And it's number one on my list for translations, as it shows clear distinctions where things were added, like here in the brackets, for example. This was added in because this was fragmented out. So they got this from another scroll, which, they found another one in Egypt. So they just took what it says in there and put it in here. And that's what this is. Yeah, Garcia Martin's version. It's Florentino Garcia Martin. But some will say just Garcia Martin or Florentino Martin. So, yeah, similar language to Paul right here. And then here we're getting into column 2, or you can say chapter 2, I guess. How many chapters do we got in here? Yeah, I think that's it. So I think we'll do like chapter 1 and then chapter 2, and then we can like pause and go over a few things here and have our normal discussion as well. So column 2. But he has showered on us his merciful favor forever and ever. And the priests will bless all the men of Elohim's lot who walk unblemished in all his paths. And they shall say, may he bless you with everything good, and may he protect you from everything bad. May he illuminate your heart with discernment of life, and grace you with eternal knowledge. May he lift upon you the countenance of his favor for eternal peace. And the Levites shall curse all the men of the lot of Belial. They shall begin to speak and say, Accursed are you for all your wicked blameworthy deeds. May he, Elohim, hand you over to dread, into the hands of all those carrying out acts of vengeance. Accursed without mercy for the darkness of your deeds, and sentenced to the gloom of everlasting fire. May Elohim not be merciful when you entreat him. Boom. Nor pardon you when you do penance for your faults. And real quickly, I wanted to add, this also goes with, where they mistranslated, "Oh, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Wrong. It says, "Father, forgive them not, for they know what they do." We see that same writing right here. They say, Elohim, do not be merciful when you entreat them. Same things. So may he lift up the countenance of his anger to avenge himself on you, and may there be no peace for you in the mouth of those who intercede. And they're even saying, even the ones who intercede for you, let that have no effect. And all those who enter the covenant shall say, after those who pronounce blessings, and to those who pronounce curses, Amen, Amen. And then another blank or vacate, which means it's missing. So, and the priests and the Levites shall continue saying, Cursed by the idols which his heart reveres. Whoever enters this covenant, leaving his guilty obstacle in front of himself to fall over it, when he hears the words of this covenant, he will congratulate himself in his heart, saying, I will have peace, in spite of my walking in the stubbornness of my heart. However, his spirit will be obliterated. So back to this side. Obliterated the dry with the moist mercilessly. May Elohim's anger and the wrath of his verdicts consume him for everlasting destruction. May all the curses of this covenant stick fast to him. May Elohim segregate for him evil, and may he be cut off from the midst of all the sons of light, because of his straying from the following of Elohim. Yeah, boom. And yeah, you say, how do I know that's not me? How do we know that's not all of us? So again, we have to remember this was written just before Messiah came and offered himself up for atonement on our behalf. So if we do mess up, if we do any of these things, if we repent and stop doing the evil, stop sinning, stop doing all these things, he will blot out these sins, just like Scripture says. Yeah, it is deep, because that's what Scriptures are. They're deep. So we see there is a strictness that Elohim requires, and that the sons of Zadok here required as well, to be part of their community, because they didn't want any of this. And we see, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the usurpers, the ones that took over, they're the ones being cursed by the sons of Zadok here. Why? Because they know what they were doing. They know they were changing the word of Yahuwah. They know they were making omissions and tossing things out here, making additions there. That's exactly what Yahushua Messiah rebuked them all for doing all these things. Yeah, all praise to the Most High. So on account of his idols and his blameworthy obstacle, may he assign his lot with the cursed ones forever. And all those who enter the covenant shall begin speaking and shall say after them, Amen, Amen. And real quickly, I wanted to add as well, we see Paul was a Pharisee. He was one of these sons of darkness. But he turned, he repented, he stopped doing all that, and he became part of the community at Qumran here. He became part of the sons of Zadok, and they accepted him in. So they shall act in this way year after year, all the days of Belial's domination. So Belial, Hasatan. The priest shall enter the rule foremost, one behind the other, according to their spirits. And the Levites shall enter after them. So here we're seeing the priests, which are the sons of Zadok, which we will see more so as we read on. The priests, the sons of Zadok, descendants of Aaron, that's what we're going to see the deeper we get into this.
Jeremy, I have
Yeah.
heard, and I don't know if anybody's really checked into this or not. I have heard that Paul did start out going there with them, and after a time, he went off on his own way with some things and was rejected by them. Does anybody come across anything like that?
No, that's where I found opposite of that. We kind of went over that in last week's discussion, but we showed the connection with Paul and the Qumran community, and how they called their land they lived in Damascus. So Paul was on the road to Damascus, Qumran, when Messiah came to him, and because he was going there to persecute them for this reason, because he was the son of darkness.
Right. So you think that's the 3 years that he went into the wilderness, not to be taught by men?
Absolutely, 100%.
And what about where they were writing? And I'm asking you because I know other people will grapple with this too if they come into this information. What about, well, all of the churches have rejected me, and there are other things that seem to indicate that perhaps he was no longer appreciated by them, to put it lightly. And then where our Savior said, our Messiah said, that you have tried those who say that they are apostles and are not, and that that this one teaches to offer sacrifice, that it's okay to offer sacrifices to idols and commit fornication, being a spiritual fornication, not necessarily a physical fornication, things like that. I was wondering if anybody's come across that, and if you have, how you resolved it.
I have not come across any of that. As I was mentioning before, we see Paul turn from being a Pharisee, a son of darkness. He had that 3-year period before becoming part of the community, which we're going to read about that as well. There was a 3-year waiting period because they wanted to make sure that you weren't going to bring in evil into the community. So I'm not sure where you had heard that, or where the folks you heard it from came up with that. That's not anything I have found in my studies anyways.
Hey, if I come across it again, I'll let you know, because this came up, I don't know, a year or so. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Oops. All right. So, yeah, they had that 3-year waiting period. Exactly, Brother Ken. Ties in with the 3 first fruits after barley. Yeah. All right. So, continuing. So they shall act in this way year after year, all the days of Belial's domination. We just read that. Sorry. So, and the Levites shall enter after them. In third place, all the people shall enter the rule, one after another, in thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, so that all the children of Israel may know their standing in Elohim's community. Which we will go into more details as well, because we see the different classes of community. There's the sons of Zadok, the priests, then we have the Levites, then we have just the regular people, so to say, that have joined, that aren't particularly of Levi, and they're not a priest. So in conformity with the eternal plan, and no one shall move down from his rank or move up from the place of his lot, for all shall be in a single community of truth, of proper meekness, of compassionate love, and upright purpose towards each other in the holy council, associates of an everlasting society. And anyone who declines to enter the covenant of Elohim in order to walk in the stubbornness of his heart shall not enter the community of his truth, since his soul loathes the restraints of knowledge of just judgment. Boom. He has not remained constant in the transformation of his life, and shall not be counted with the upright. So again, showing the importance of, turning your back on sin, stopping from transgressions. Do not fall back into old habits or old lifestyles. We have to constantly work on changing them and continuing to be upright, refined like gold in the fire. So his knowledge, his energy, and his wealth shall not enter the council of the community, because he plows in the slime of irreverence, and there are stains on his conversion. He shall not be justified while he maintains the stubbornness of his heart, since he regards darkness as past to light. In the source of the perfect he shall not be counted. So again, I wanted to point out, more similar language that we see in Paul's writings. Just more validation. He was part of this community. Yeah, like the moon changes daily, so should we. Yeah, exactly. Constantly striving to get rid of sin and walk that narrow path. So he will not become clean by the acts of atonement, nor shall he be purified by the cleansing waters, nor shall he be made holy by the seas or rivers. So they were already doing the mikvahs or immersions, as we can see, before Messiah came. So nor shall he be purified by all the water of the ablutions. Defiled shall he be all the days he spurns the decrees of Elohim, without allowing himself to be taught by the community of his counsel. For by the spirit of the true counsel concerning the paths of a man, all his sins are atoned, so that he can look at the light of life. And by the spirit of holiness, which links him with his truth, he is cleansed of all his sins. Boom, right there. And by the spirit of uprightness and of humility, his sin is atoned, So clearly this is showing faith without works is dead. It's death. This shows we need to have works. Our works show we are following and willing to turn from sin. You know, this whole modern churchianity aspect of saying, oh, all you got to do is believe. Don't worry about anything else. You can go off and commit murder and do all these other things that are sin, 100% going against the Torah of Yahuwah. We can do that. All we got to do is just believe and we're saved. No, that's wrong. We have to work at cleansing ourselves from sin. That's the refinement of gold through fire. You know, we see this all throughout scriptures. Faith without works is dead. You know, we have Peter also talking about, I'll show you my faith by my works. Things like that. Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, Brother Ken, exactly. So you see why now separation is important. And, you know, Katrina brings that up a lot. Is, you know, it's bearing a false witness if we're just, you know, fellowshipping for the sake of fellowship or fellowshipping underneath a bunch of lies. So if we truly love our brothers and our sisters, we have to go and tell them the truth. Like, hey, you know, we don't follow the moon for months. We don't follow it for the Sabbaths. We don't follow it for the days. You know, the calendar, the appointed times is very important, as we can see by the Qumran community itself. Like, the calendar was central to everything. And even now we see that the calendar is central to understanding what is being said in scriptures. Because if you don't understand the calendar, you're not going to understand what's being said in scriptures. And yeah, as we could see, they did have compassion, because they say, hey, treat each other with love and compassion and respect, things like that. But the sons of darkness, no, they're evil. Stay away from them. Yeah, they had no compassion for willful sin in Yah's face. Exactly, sister. That right there. So, where was I? Sorry. So, by the spirit of holiness, we read that. So, by the spirit of uprightness and humility, his sin is atoned. And by the complete compliance, I hate when they separate big words like that. And so, by compliance of his soul with all the laws of Yahuwah, his flesh is cleansed by being sprinkled with cleansing waters and being made holy with the waters of repentance. Look at that. Mikvahs, immersions. This is why being baptized is important through the cleansing waters. May he then steady his steps in order to walk with perfection on all the, let me get back over here, on all the paths of Elohim, conforming to all he has decreed concerning the regular times of his commands, and not turn aside either left or right, nor infringe even one of his words. In this way he will be admitted by a means of atonement, pleasing to Yahuwah Elohim. And for him it will be the covenant of an everlasting community. Boom. And then, of course, we see it's blank again, or vacate. So for the wise man, that he may inform and teach all the sons of light about the history of all the sons of man, concerning all the ranks of their spirits, in accordance with their signs, concerning their deeds, in their generations, and concerning the visitation of their punishment in the moment of their reward. From the Elohim of knowledge stems all there is, and all there shall be. Before they existed, he made all their plans, and when they came into being, they will execute all their works in compliance with his instructions, according to his glorious design, without altering anything. In his hand are the laws of all things, and he supports them with all their needs. He created man to rule the world, and placed within him two spirits, so that he would walk with them until the moment of his visitation, lest they are the spirits of truth and of deceit. Yep. Unfortunately, that spirit of deceit is placed within us because of the original sin of Eve and Adam. So in the hand of the Prince of Lights is dominion over all the sons of justice. They walk on paths of light. And in the hand of the angel of darkness is total dominion over the sons of deceit. They walk on paths of darkness. Yep. Due to the angel of darkness, all the sons of justice stray, and all their sins, their iniquities, their failings, and their mutinous deeds are under his dominion, this angel of darkness, in compliance with the mysteries of Elohim, until his moment, and all their punishments and their periods of grief are caused by the dominion of his enmity. And all the spirits of their lot cause the sons of light to fall. However, the Elohim of Israel and the angel of his truth assist all the sons of light. He created the spirits of light and of darkness, and on them established all his deeds, on their paths, all his labors, and on their paths, all his labors. Elohim loved one of them for all. Boom, and that's kind of an allusion there to Messiah as well. So I think we'll pause there for now, and we will continue on column 4 later on here. But does anybody have any questions or anything they have seen or would like to add on to in here? And Shabbat Shalom to all of those who have just recently come in as well. Glad you all can make it. And yeah, the War Scroll, it's a really good book. Talks about the war of the sons of light versus the sons of darkness. It goes pretty deep. I can't wait to get into it either, actually.
That war, is that a physical war or is it a spiritual war?
I think that's the War of Armageddon that actually happened. And
yes.
Okay, the reason I asked, I heard in a video somewhere this week that the Sons of Light were the Zadok priests that kept the solar calendar, and the Sons of Darkness were all the ones that kept the lunar calendar, and that they were always battling back and forth. So that's not entirely correct then. I didn't think that was all there was to it.
Yeah, that's part of it, but it goes a lot deeper than that as well, as you can see.
Yeah. Well, that war, I assume, is still going on because the sons of darkness, the wicked ones, are still running the show.
Right. Absolutely. Still going on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And they're called boundary shifters in the scrolls. They're called boundary shifters. What a word.
Wow, that's pretty descriptive.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what they're doing. And that's exactly what the people, moving the equinox day are doing too. They're, changing it to whatever Wednesday. So it's such one of those things where there's nothing new under the sun, right?
Nope.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, boundary shifters. I forgot about that terminology. Yeah, that's exactly what they say, and that's a perfect word to describe them. And we can't be boundary shifters, we have to go with what's written, not only in scriptures, what the sons of Zadok have written themselves as well, as we can see. And we can see that separation is important. It's not fellowship for the sake of unity. We're supposed to fellowship for the sake of truth and to share that truth with everybody. Yeah, and we could see all the similar language, to Paul as well, his writing. We could see the similar language that, not only the New Testament, but the Old Testament as well, is what they call it, the Tanakh. But we can see, the importance of separating ourselves from sin, even the ones who blatantly sin. They know what they're doing. They sin purposefully. They have no repentance. They have no desire to turn and follow Yahuwah. And yeah, and I wanted to read through the Dead Sea Scrolls as well, not only so we can read them and study them, but to read them, because I know a lot of people, they've heard about them. Some have read parts of them here and there. Some haven't read any of them at all. So I just wanted to go over all of them. And I did start reading through them probably about a year or two ago on my YouTube channel. Now that I have more understanding about them, I think it's better to read them with more understanding so we can point out, hey, look, this here doesn't belong there, or something's fishy about this. Things like that. But so far, what we see in the community rule is lining right up with scriptures, lines up with Messiah, lines up with Paul, all these things. And it's about, coming together as a community in truth to follow Yahuwah, to learn these truths. Now, granted, we don't have Levites or sons of Zadok here to lead. So we're just the normal people in that community right now. So we're all still refining ourselves as well. Just like gold refined in the fire. If we see something, we see it mentioned in scriptures, all these things, we have to change what we're doing to fit what Yahuwah wants us to do, not the opposite. Like, we shouldn't be changing scriptures to fit what we think. We should change what we think to fit scriptures.
Yeah, and you know something? Since we've been raised to be boundary shifters and confused, it might it might have taken us some time to really get that.
Yeah, exactly. Some it will take longer than others, but yeah. But yeah, and we can also see, yeah, that exactly, Ken. Two spirits. Now I get it. The spirit of Yah and the spirit dominion of enmity. Yeah.
I like what Ken said. That he did start to read the community rules about 5 years ago, and he couldn't get past how the rules showed no compassion to anyone outside of its lifestyle. And he didn't like it, right? I would get triggered too. I got a little triggered, you know? So he didn't read it anymore, but now it's much clearer and much more potent. No mixing, no sitting on the fence, no lukewarm, etc. Daily working on yourself with loving others equally around you. It's a tough call. These people were full on, and it's so true. But when we started to study the history, it's almost as if like I was living it. Like I felt so sorry for what they had to go through. And of course, you walk through Messiah's life and you just, when you get to the tree and his death, it's like, oh, wow. But it's like serious, Messiah was serious. These guys were serious about division, separation, for unity and all truth. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. And mixing always corrupts morals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it, little leaven, right? Leavens the whole lump.
Yeah, and that's it right there.
You break one law, you break them all, right? Right? It's like, I don't care how much you think you've done to the Torah, you broke this law, ouch. It's pretty serious.
Yeah, it really is.
We gotta keep humbling ourselves and, trying to formulate our ways the way that Zadok's did it. Mm-hmm. And shine the light so others may see and would want that kind of seriousness. Because look at the world today, we're like a world with these ridiculous rules and it's just chaos. I want to go back to the strict. I want that strict father. I don't want that lenient father where he's going to let you get away with a couple things and here, there. But let's get to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be refined. I want to be refined every day. He refines every day. We should want that.
Yesterday,
no, I agree. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that goes with, like a father. What's that verse that talks about if you withhold the stick from or the rod from your son? Something like that. Basically telling, a father should be correcting their son so that they know right from wrong. And that's what he's doing to us, basically. And that's what, they're showing us here in the Dead Sea Scrolls as well.
Did I tell you about reading the book in I think it was Jubilees when I was preparing for this thing, maybe not. And I read about the book of discipline along with the book of life. And it just so overjoyed my heart because here our Abba has written down the disciplines that he's brought us through. And so therefore he has our victories down too. And see, Yeah, I know. That's where they were. That's what they did. They were wrong. But I brought them here. And look, I brought them here. And here, see, they are in the book of life because they accepted my correction.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly it. And
Exactly. Yep.
yes.
Yep.
And he knows, these things have been lost to us in a
Mm-hmm.
modern time. So he
Mm-hmm.
knows it's been changed and corrupted, and we're trying to bring it back, get it back to that.
Right.
So go ahead.
There's not this, oh, well, see, here, I remember when I read Dead Sea Scroll, the community rules so many years ago, and I was like, oh man. But it's not like it's a harsh record. It's a loving kindness. Hey, look, see, they got the victory here. He's a father that chastens us with a heart for our benefit. He's not like the devil looking for every little thing he can smash us for.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's part of the whole mainstream narrative that they push. Like, oh, look how harsh and cruel these people are. Oh, that's not of Yah. Well, actually, it is because they're separating from the sin. That's what we're supposed to do. This is why Yahuwah had to go to Peter in his dream and say, look, no man is unclean. You still have to go to them and preach. But if they're evildoers, purposely doing these things, stay away from them. And yeah, it's just part of the mainstream narrative to hide the truth of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Just like, oh, look how crazy and evil they are, unaccepting of everybody. Well, Yahuwah is not all accepting and all loving. Neither is Messiah. So, yeah, we have to get rid of that sin. We have to cleanse that sin out. Do our best to get it out for what we know. And keep refining ourselves the more we read and the more knowledge we gain from Yahuwah. Yeah. Disciplined priests. Exactly, Brother Lee. Yeah. Were you going to say something, Katrina?
Oh no, could you hear me? I'm eating. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I was wondering if you had something to say, but no worries.
Nope, slurping up my spaghetti. Sorry, guys.
Yummy.
So you're the one making all the noise.
I know. I thought I put it on mute.
Hungry girl.
I'm starving. Yeah, I'm starving.
Yeah, it's time to eat breakfast.
Who said that? It's time to eat breakfast.
Yeah, it's breakfast.
Well, you break your fast any time of day.
Yeah, I wasn't intending to fast today. I just got busy studying and listening, and then I realized I'm hungry. And then I realized I haven't even eaten breakfast yet.
Yeah, making me hungry now as well.
Hey, Katrina.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I can hear you eating too, but you know what? I'm going to discipline myself. I'm going to practice.
Wait, what?
I'm going to practice. I'm getting a little hungry too now, but I'm not going to go out there and eat. I'm going to practice disciplining myself. We were talking about
Oh.
discipline priest.
Oh.
Well, I don't think we're supposed to fast on Shabbat anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
I've already eaten earlier, but I just made enough to eat a meal today. So, but anyway, enjoy your spaghetti.
Thank you. Were you done reading what the section you wanted to go over?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I was eating with the family, so I didn't hear that part. But I'm going to go through it with the teaching. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? I wish Libby was here too. Ugh.
Yeah, I know that'd be awesome. Unless anybody else had anything, they wanted to add with what we just read. And
Or
really just, oh, go ahead.
Or read anything that, came to mind as he was reading anything. Please feel free, add in.
Yeah, because like we see in just a small reading we even did today, we see a lot of the same language used in Paul's writings. We see a lot of the same language from the Tanakh, everything from scriptures, and we could see they point to the Torah of YAHUAH all over. And even just a small amount we've read today, it's all about, following the Torah of YAHUAH. And we just see how important it is and how important it is to get that leaven out, which is sin, not to allow, people who blatantly sin come into, congregation and fellowship, because a little bit of leaven leavens the whole lump. That's the whole thing. Once sin comes around, it starts creeping in. And then we kind of get that mindset of like, oh, well, hey, they're doing it, so it must be okay to do. So I can see why they're so strict.
Yeah, our lifestyle has to be an example to others, and it has to draw others to Yahushua.
Yeah, it's like I was saying earlier, if we can't go out, committing adultery, murdering, killing people, and saying, oh, it's fine, I believe, so I'm saved. Like, that's not showing anybody that you're following the way. That's not leading by example. None of that. So we have to work on ourselves to, better ourselves. We find ourselves like gold to be able to follow his law. Yeah. Belinda, find the day before Sabbath, come in contact with people attempting to build raging fires in their ruach. I even see that on Sabbath day as well. Actually, speaking about that, there's a brother, Dustin Hoffman, I think is his name, on Facebook. But for the last few Sabbaths, every Sabbath day for us, he's coming and wanting to, fight and argue over the divider day. And every week, I've shown him the same proof over and over. And he wants to argue about the placement of the divider day. And, I see him all over, Aaron Ryan. He's going back and forth with her as well. And it just seems like it always happens on the Sabbath day. He doesn't want to do it any other days. It's always just boom. Sabbath day comes around. Oh, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Wow, it's funny you mention that because I was bombarded like this morning with all of his stuff. That's so weird because it's been like 3 days since I posted. That's right.
Yeah, the same. He did the
Weird.
same to me this morning. Yeah, out of the blue, he's making all these posts on my Facebook wall saying this, that, and another thing. So I show the evidence contrary to what he's saying, saying here's all the evidence, and he's just going on and on and on and on about it. I'm like, dude, why do you do this every Sabbath day? You come, you get your little girl. He gets his girlfriend to go hit up Katrina at the same time he's hitting me up. And then they just bombard us with all this nonsense. And it's like, dude, we've answered these things for you many times. But yeah. I think
Is he the one? Is he the one that has the sight beyond the veil?
No, I don't
No.
think that's No.
Okay, different person.
That's a different person. There's Dustin Hoffman and then wife. I forget her name, but she's always going after Katrina while he goes after me. Or vice versa. Like, she'll come after me and he'll go after Katrina. It's weird.
Oh, I had them both today. Yeah, they were both attacking. But yeah, no, I can't tell you how many times. And that's in the solar tracking group. And he's constantly posting in there now. And yeah. And then I won't comment in there because I know he wants the show. So I'll go on his original page and I'll like make some comments and stuff like that. And then he just goes berserk.
Yeah, it seems like he's all about the show. Like,
yeah.
Like he'll post at our walls and stuff, and make it this whole public spectacle. You know, he's always posted in that solar group, making it this huge public spectacle. And like everything he says, he actually says some good things that would actually support what we say as well. But then, you know, you go and show him this stuff, and then all of a sudden he's fighting with you over where you want to put the divider day. And it's like, bro, look, we have the location where it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have it in Genesis 1. Why are you wanting to break up creation week and insert it there? And it's just, yeah, and he's one of those, you know, day after
He sees the divider, right? He knows that there's a divider. But the problem with him is it's where he wants to put it on the equinox, which I can't, because I know me and Marissa went back and forth when she was trying to like understand it, and she's like, "Well, maybe the equinox is the divider day," and I just kept thinking, how does that work? Like with creation week, it doesn't. There's not like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 0. Like no, it has to. It's Genesis 1, 2. It doesn't make sense. Remember, Marissa?
Yeah, and so that kind of like begged the question of like, well, how do they coincide then?
Yeah.
In that way. So, but we can only put the equinox in its rightful place on day 4 creation week if we recognize that Genesis 1, 1 through 2.
Right.
Yeah. And I wasn't bringing him up to like bash him or trash him or anything. I'm sure, because he does seem to have a heart for truth. It's just, you know, he's kind of all over the place with it. And, you know, he does have a few good things to say. It's just, you know, we try to show him these things, and he's just like, he's blown up. And I don't know why he chooses a Sabbath day to do these things, whether the Sabbath day we're following or his Sabbath day. I don't know. I'm not sure if he observes the same way we do, but he does see the divider day and everything. He just starts a day after the equinox. And he wants to put that divider day, you know, on the equinox, like you were saying, Marissa. So there are some differences here and there, but really the thing is coming together and just searching for truth. I know all of us, even in this group, we're not going to agree 100% on every matter. But that's just like we're seeing with the Dead Sea Scrolls and the community rule. Like, we're supposed to have, priests as leaders, but unfortunately, we don't have Zadok priests in our modern time. We don't even have Levites. And all this information has been lost, twisted, and hidden. So we're just doing our best to search all this information out and get to the truth, bring it back
And
to God.
yeah, and let's all keep praying on that, because look at how much Yah has given us since, day one of all this. It's been really remarkable how things are just like coming to mind, and we're able to see things differently looking at, the text. Even Genesis. How many times did we go over Genesis and we missed all this? How many times, did we read the Psalms and miss the details? So he will provide for us. Like Ellie, you said you wanted the scripture for something that Marissa said. Well, you know what? We're gonna find it. It's got to be there. It's got to be there. So let's pray and let's continue digging, because he is so willing to give. You got to ask, seek, knock. The door will be opened. He promised that.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it takes longer to see things than others. Some things will click right away. Sometimes it'll take us a little bit, or we'll want to reject it right off the bat, but then it'll come back around and we're like, maybe we should dig deeper into that. That happens to me a lot. Like, I'll want to be rejected right off the bat, but then it'll come back around and I'm like, okay, that's Yahuwah is showing, like, hey, this might be something you want to look deeper into.
Ellie, did you want to sing a song?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, if you like. I think I got past the first one, and maybe I'll do a different one. The choices, what I realized is that I wrote that one so long ago. It's got Christ all over it, and I don't know if that would offend anybody here. And going from one syllable Christ to 3 syllables Messiah, I haven't figured out how to do that quite yet on this song. So unless I have feedback on that, I'll go to... Pardon?
I said, that's fine with me. I mean, like I always say, it's not about pronunciations, it's about foundation. I know there are some that'll cringe, like Christ or the J name, which, again, I don't use those, but it doesn't mean, we should throw things off because someone uses those. I know you don't use those names, but, I don't mind listening, even if you say Christ, because we know who that is. So we know who you're talking about.
We could always think of ways to, help you out there once we hear it.
And I've gone through it like 3 different times, and I'm like, I still don't think I can quite get it. So, well, and then I can do First Love after that, okay?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
How's that? Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll leave it right there and sing then. This is called Choices. Choosing to die to wrong feelings, Christ's spirit not to grieve. Choosing to let opinions go, all wrong thoughts must leave. These are the choices Yah's children make, Christ's spirit dwells within. Only in His abundant life do we find freedom from sin. Selfishness causes suffering to the natural man. Only by being true to Christ can we fulfill his plan. To be his temple filled with joy, peace and love within, filled with his Spirit, makes us free from sin. Choosing to die to wrong feelings, Christ's Spirit not to grieve. Choosing to let opinions go, all wrong thoughts must leave. These are the choices Yah's children make, Christ's Spirit dwells within. Only in his abundant life do we find freedom from sin. The unity of Christ's body depends on oneness with him. Loving obedience keeps us free from sin. Our natural man can do nothing to fill us with Christ's love. Only the willing heart can be filled with life from above. Choosing to die to wrong feelings, Christ's Spirit not to grieve. Choosing to let opinions go, all wrong thoughts must leave. These are the choices Yah's children make, Christ's Spirit dwells within. Only in his abundant life do we find freedom from sin. Lord, I choose your Spirit over the feelings of sin. Fear, anger, bitterness will not enter in. Make your perfect love live and flow through me. From Satan's spirit I have been set free. Choosing to die to wrong feelings, Christ's Spirit not to grieve. Choosing to let opinions go, all wrong thoughts must leave. These are the choices Yah's children make, Christ's Spirit dwells within. Only in his abundant life do we find freedom from sin. Only in his abundant life do we find freedom from sin.
Beautiful. Thank you, sister.
Oh, my pleasure. It's first love.
Very good. Very, 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 very important. Instead of saying maybe Christ, maybe you could say his, just his.
Just his all over the place, like
Yeah.
IHS, okay.
I don't know. It was just a thought.
Yeah, I did supply his instead of Christ at least one time while I was going through it, and
Yeah.
just pray that it can come together with the translation. A lot of the
Yeah.
songs have been transformed, but that one hasn't yet.
No, it was good. Awesome. Perfect for the moment. That's what we're glad for sure.
Okay, this is called First Love, and this came quite a few years ago as well. It was a feast time. Restore my first love, the love of the Father shed abroad in our hearts. that first love, where we love you because you first loved us. You gave your dear son to win our hearts, to that love that lays down its life. Yahuwah, make you increase and abound in love, that he may establish your hearts, unblameable in holiness before your Father. At the coming of our Master Yeshua, today, if you will hear my voice, harden not your hearts, like your fathers who have not known my ways. In unbelief entered not my rest. Restore our first love, the love of the Father shed abroad in our hearts. That first love, where we love you because you first loved us. You gave your dear son to win our hearts, to that love that lays down its life. Messiah, our Passover sacrifice for us, shows us your heart of love. We love him because he first loved us and washed us from our sins with his own blood. Purge out the old leaven, malice, and sin, and let us keep the feast with unleavened bread of sincerity and truth, instead of our unbelief. Restore our first love, the love of the Father shed abroad in our hearts. That first love, where we love you because you first loved us. You gave your dear son to win our hearts, to that love that lays down its life, to that love that lays down its life.
Beautiful. Praise Yahuwah.
Hallelujah.
Thanks for sharing with us, sister.
My pleasure. Hallelujah. Our Abba, he's so awesome. You know, over the years, he's given me songs to show me, to remind me, to call me, and brethren that I worshipped with, to ponder his word. And songs have always been that for me. I remember back when he called me back in the, he made clear to me that I didn't want to listen to those songs that didn't bring glory to him. And then he started giving me songs later that all I did was listen to scripture songs for a long, long time.
You're inspiring my daughter. She's in the other room singing after hearing you. She's making up her own songs. So cute.
Thank you for that, Ellie, and thank you for Jeremy and everyone else for your awesome teaching today. I learned some gold nuggets. But I'm signing off, so everyone have a very happy rest of the Shabbat.
Sarah, can I call you later?
Sure, I'll be
All right.
available.
Awesome. I'll call you in a little bit.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Bye, Sarah.
Thanks for joining.
The one thing that I was focusing on Paleo Hebrew today. I just really want to learn the language, and I really want to understand the letters and what they mean. And I just kind of want to throw this one out there. If anybody could give me any kind of help or guidance regarding the Paleo, it's on the letter Noon. Now there's conflicting views on what it means. And apparently it's more of like I wish I brought my notes with me, but I'm at my parents'. Originally it's supposed to be Nahash and not Noon. Has anyone heard of that? That it doesn't mean the sprouting seed, but it actually means the snake. I'll send the teaching for anyone to watch and kind of, but I heard that they were saying something like that has been changed. Has anyone ever heard that? So I'm like, is it Noon? Is it Nahash? Like, well, now what the heck is going on? And now it's like a completely different meaning. I'm like, ugh.
I'm still here for a minute because you said paleo and that caught my attention. But what? So I have a hard time getting off of here. Who did that?
It's like those Indian, ancient Hebrew, I think is the YouTube, and it's like maybe like the father-daughter combination, and they're kind of like Indian types of, and they speak on the Hebrew a lot, and it's been really helping me. But now I'm stuck on Noon, and I'm like, well, do I teach my kids, is it Noon? I mean, they do say Noon, but they're saying that it's Nahash, really. Like, oh.
I don't know. I don't know about that at all. But paleo, they have, really done their best to cover it up and to hide it behind this fake Hebrew, this modern Hebrew. It's more Yiddish in Babylonian. And so I think there's really something to Hebrew, to Paleo Hebrew. Now on Noel Hadley's channel, and I'm not crazy about Noel personally at all, but they're really into the Paleo Hebrew. And there's a gal that says she's translating into Paleo, and I met her when I was in the Ozarks last month, and I asked her where she's translating it from, and she has a lot of different sources. I think it's legit, but they've got a lot that they've translated into Paleo and on their site. And so I just got in the mail yesterday, I ordered the Genesis in Paleo, and I haven't even cracked it yet. That's what I was going to do today. I've got it here right beside me, and I'm so excited to see, I just thought, well, I'll start with Genesis and see what the differences are. But I just think there's really something to Paleo, though, because they've done such a extraordinary, awful job of covering it up and hiding it and pushing it aside. So there must be something to it. But I would be interested in seeing that video that you mentioned.
I'm looking for it. I know I posted it. I can't find out where. Okay. Rebecca, I know you just joined. Rebecca, are you pretty good at Hebrew?
I am just learning.
Oh,
Very
did you
much
ever
just
hear of
learning.
anything about like the Noon actually being Nahash?
No, I had not. When you said that, I was like, I've never heard that before.
I'm gonna have to ask Natalie.
It's something to dig into. I don't know. Are you familiar with Pamela Glasgow?
That's who I was referring to, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, she works with Noel Hadley.
Okay, yeah, Paleo Pamela. That would be who I would ask, but I don't have any input, unfortunately, to add. I'm interested to find out what you discover, though.
Yeah, Brian in chat saying J. A. Benner and Dr. Frank T. Seekins are some of his favorite works. And yeah, for those, excuse me, for those asking about where they can purchase these Dead Sea Scrolls, you can go, if you type in the title of that book, like Francisco Garcia Martinez, just type in that name, and a website should pop up with it for sale if they have it for sale.
I have that book, Brian. I have it. I own it. I have to find it. Is that the one you're talking about? Is that Benner? Oh, okay. Yeah, I got that book. I'll get it. I'll find it.
That's a Frank T.
Seekins
book.
Seekins. All right, so where do I find the other one? Benner is 1-8, the ancient Hebrew site. Jeff Abe and Seekins. So I have Seekins. Okay. I might even have the other one too. I bought so many books. Okay, so this is the website for the other one. Okay. Thank you. This will really help. Yeah, I really think there's something that we all kind of need to learn when it comes to Hebrews. There has to be like important gems in some of these words that kind of change the meanings around here and there. And I'm really interested in kind of going back and uncovering what it is.
Yeah, I would agree.
And the playlist that I did post, they have some really good gems in there. Really good gems. So I highly recommend that one. I'm going to save these other ones though.
I put them all to the links in the other group as well. I forwarded it.
Here, Claudia, do you want to sing the Hebrew alphabet real quick for the group? Come here. Sing the Hebrew alphabet. Go ahead. Ready? Sing it for them. Aleph, Pat, Gam, Dalet, Otad, Kat, Yoka, Lamen, Zamek, Alpad, Salish, Resh, Shantar, Renoi, Aladas. Good job. Good job, guys. They both did it.
Beautiful.
They're so cute. Yeah, I'm trying to. I like stalled for a minute because there's so many different variations, and I wanted to get it right as not to confuse them. But as I'm going, it's just like, well, it's kind of like handwriting. First, you learn, small letters, then capital letters, and then cursive. So I'm just trying to build. So we're starting with the ancient form, and then we're gonna look at the variations. And I really like that book because it kind of shows the one book that Brian mentioned, by Seekins, because it kind of goes through the history of how it all evolved. So yeah, thanks guys. Thanks. You're doing good. Oh, I have that one too, Brian. I don't know where it is, but I own it. I own it. But isn't that like it's not in Paleo though. That one's not, that's in the modern script. Yeah, there. Yep. Yeah, we're not that. I don't even know if I want to go into the modern unless I go into the book and just, white it out and change it, which is entirely possible. I'll do that. But I have that book too.
Yeah, with the script, some people do get picky with it, but as long as you know, learning the meanings of each individual character and stuff, as long as you know an Aleph is an Aleph, for instance, you'll be able to get the meaning. But yeah, I prefer the ancient text myself, but as long as you can distinguish what's what, you'll be able to get it.
Yeah, that's true. Because we're going to be forced to be reading some of these Hebrew stuff too, I'm sure. So just to try to, I'm getting there. I just want to start basic, Because when I first started to study like the newer stuff, I was like, I cannot get this. And I sent class after class. I did 119. I'm doing other stuff online throughout the years, and I just, for the life of me, couldn't get it. But with Paleo, it's just so clear because the pictures really do like make you get it.
I'm glad I didn't waste time with the modern Hebrew. But I will spend some time trying to learn some of the Paleo because it says in the kingdom we will be going back to the original language. That's what Scripture says. So that will be what we'll be speaking, whether we need to learn it now or we'll be tutored then. But that will be the language.
Yeah. And it is just like I said, I feel like if we start to really learn this, there's going to be so many hidden gems in the language. Yeah.
Years ago, I wanted to learn it, and what was put on my heart was to learn the ancient first. And I had opportunities to learn the modern, but he just had that inside of me that I wanted to get a sense of what they meant by the Holy Spirit. Well, that's what I called him back then. And that once I had that picture in my mind, then maybe I could have the Spirit lighting things up for me instead of getting bogged down in just the symbols as translated by whoever it is that made modern Hebrew. And he really blessed me with that.
Yeah, same. I'm really getting it. I'm really getting it now. So I think that this is the way to start, at least. Oh, gosh, Rebecca, you're trying to learn the vowel points? Ugh. No. Same, Sumi. that just blows me. It just blows my mind.
Jeff Benner's, I don't remember which one I read it in years ago, but I had some brethren. I was invited to a feast, and some brethren were teaching about how to get go back from what we have today and make it paleo, and so then you could understand what was actually being said instead of what was being translated with the vowel points and stuff.
Right.
And there are a couple of vowel points that there are a couple of ancient Hebrew letters that the Masoretes pulled out and put vowel points in instead. So you can't just go back straight and do it that way. And I shared with them, I wish I still had the phone. I took pictures of it and shared with them what was going on with that, because they haven't been true to what to what was there.
Well,
they did their own thing, so you can't go straight back,
Isn't it that there's just two vowels? Like it's just A and U?
No.
Is there? No. Like in paleo?
They teach that. There are those that, I mean, if you follow back Frank Seekins, right? And the letters that we have that are vowels, you can trace them back to the supposed consonants of Hebrew. But those supposed consonants, several of them had had a sense of a vowel with them as well. But they've represented it in such a way that they are discouraging people from learning from our Abba's spirit and getting a sense of what was really going on, because there's vowels in every language. All the languages that come down through the Semitic have vowels in them that are based in what we got from Hebrew. So that claim, I don't know, people aren't really thinking, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, the modern quote unquote Hebrew is actually more of a Yiddish language. So they took the original language and tweaked it here and there, put the vowel points and certain different pronunciations on it. So they claim it as Hebrew, but really it's more Yiddish.
Yeah, which comes from Babylon, and English is closer to ancient Hebrew than modern Hebrew is.
Yeah.
Everybody says English is such an evil language. Well, I don't think so. When I saw the charts of how close it compares with ancient Hebrew, I was thinking, there's more to this English language than we've been told.
Notice that too, because alphabet, that's where we get alphabet in English. Mm-hmm. Even some of the like how we pronounce things in English, it's like similar pronunciation in like Hebrew.
Yeah. Well, much of the lost 10 tribes are speaking English, so it can't be that bad.
I think he's still going to restore us to pure language, though.
Yeah. That's what the word says. So that's pretty exciting.
I know some people that are like, "Oh, English is it," and then other people are like, "English was put together the same way that the modern Hebrew was put together, and that was for the purpose of rebuilding the Tower of Babel."
Yeah.
Katrina, have you looked into the Demotic or the Egyptian hieroglyphs? Because they are tightly connected with the Paleo Hebrew. You can't really separate them much. Because in Demotic, Noon is the snake. But it's translated in our...
What word are you saying? What word are you saying?
Demotic.
How do you spell it?
Demotic.
Demotic.
Is the study of the Egyptian hieroglyphs. It's the ancient language of the pharaohs. Yeah. And PH, for instance, phar means house. Well, it's the same letter as they, like the house in Hebrew. But there it's translated in English as far. It's the sound of pharaoh. Pharaoh means pregnant house or big house. But it's in Hebrew that turned into the letter B or Bait or Alephet. Yeah. So the Mari has, with some differences between the letters as we translate them into English, but the symbology it's very similar. So for letter, for instance, in Demotic, Nun, or the one that was found by Katrina, Nahash, has the same symbol as in Hebrew. It's a snake. So that's where it's coming. But it was the previous symbol from it turned into I don't know, like the strike of a thunder, yeah? That is even a more modern representation. The Paleo Hebrew is more modern than even the previous representation, which was Egyptology or Demotic, yeah? So it's tightly connected. I mean, there are charts that connect each letter of the Paleo Hebrew with the Demotic or the Egyptian hieroglyphs, and you can see them. So you can see the similarity, because obviously they were so interconnected. You know, they were at the foundation. They were brothers, yeah. So yeah, it's the Babylonian kingdom, but you know, it's from the beginning they were very much related between the languages. From there, it had just, you know, separated, you know. So we lost in time the language of the pharaohs, yeah. But they're very connected, so that's where it's coming from. Nahash, which is translated as Nun. And it's symbolized. I mean, I don't know, Eric Bissell, you probably know. I mean, I don't know how many of them. Eric Bissell is represented as a raising laver, where you wash up, you know, like a symbol, like the symbolism of the water that is the spirit. And anyway, this is what I found to the connection with the Nahash. The Demotic has many of the symbols, and that you can find in Hebrew.
And yeah, you are absolutely correct. We do see the similarities and things like that.
Yeah, the fun part is that the treasury of the pharaoh in Demotic, it's called White House or Perhetch. It's funny. So we have a treasury in Washington of the pharaoh, which is the White House.
Yeah, interesting.
That's what it's called. Perhetch is like White House. That's what it means. Fair, which is or from Pharaoh house, and Hetch is white. The White House, which was the treasury of the Pharaoh, where everything, you know, he was having all the right hand.
Yeah, the right hand. Absolutely. Yeah, so everybody's sharing a lot of stuff there in chat about learning the original Hebrew. Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you so much. I really want to dig into it this week.
I'm gonna have to forward some of that to the link section here. Yeah, praise Yah.
You know, I have friends that that are very concerned. They're listening to these different people and they're saying, "Oh, Moses couldn't have written the scriptures, the first 5 books." and that one came up in my feed that I just sent out there, and I watched it through, and it was some guy's experience and testimony, and I thought he did very well at it, and it was linking the how Moses very well could have, and why all of the different reasons why the scholarly people on one school of thinking are saying it couldn't have happened. And so it gave me a broader picture of why my brethren on one side are thinking this way because they're paying attention to that, and why my brethren on another side don't have any problem with it because they know more than the ones on this side who are stumbling at it. So I asked the Father, I stuck it in my phone, the link in my phone to send it to myself, and my phone won't send stuff to me, so it's not doubling up, and so I can find it whenever I want to. And there it is. So I hope it's a blessing to y'all.
Yeah, praise Yah.
That one Facebook link that you sent, ancient Hebrew word pictures, they stop at Lamed. Man, I want Memnoon. Oh, they have the Hebrew word pictograph chart. Yeah, but again, they're all doing noon. And they're all saying that it represents a seed. But the way that these people go over it, it sounds like it means more of a snake than Nahash. Just doesn't really fit. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud now. Just something I was considering. Thanks everyone for the help on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody have anything else?
That's interesting, because if you look at it, it looks like it could kind of be a baby snake. The little noon there.
And so they were going over, and I have it all written down in my notes at home, like I said, but they were going over all the words, that have this letter in it, and how it does need to be like snake instead of seed.
Huh.
I always thought it was like the spermy, or the first life of a plant.
Yeah, the spermy.
Well, tell you what, if you wanna send your notes, I'd appreciate going over them, or send where to find it. One of the two.
No. I put the link in the chat. It's the one where I say this is where they go over noon, and it says right in the title. It says, but we think it's Nahash or something like that instead of actually noon.
Okay, I'll look for that. I'm
let me know.
Keeping up with everything. Thank you.
No. Yeah, let me know what you find, because they're saying that. Oh, I don't know. Maybe Palestine. Oh, no, that couldn't be it. And somewhere down the line, it was changed. Watch the video. I only watched it once. I usually have to watch things twice to get it. But watch the video. You'll see what I mean. It's like,
all right.
Wow.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anything else? Anybody looking at this week? I still kind of want to get back into the prophet study. Kind of.
Yeah, I was reading in Maccabees, because I'm going into the part of the writing where I am verifying about Onias and Onias 3 and Jason, and I'm coming across some of these things, and I'm like, what a story. And then I'm trying to work out in my mind, how is it that these Maccabees books were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they're in the Ethiopian Bible, whatever it's called, and that, and I came across something saying that Stephen Pidgeon actually translated the Sefer from the Ethiopic Bible, and I don't know the truth of that. No, but there was no reference to it where I could verify that. And then the God culture folks, they teach that the Maccabees is not what do you call it, worthy to be considered as and anyway, I'm not completing the full thoughts. They're just all going, one right after the other in my mind, because these are things I've been considering the last few days. And I'm wondering if anybody has any insight into any of this one way or another, as far as Pidgin and Ethiopic, as far as Maccabees being whether it's truly worthy of considering as scripture, or it's some kind of something that would draw away. Anyway, thank you. I'll just be quiet now.
I tend to side with God culture only because it seems like even in the Maccabees they kind of admit to their own doings of the usurpation. Isn't that right, Jeremy?
Yeah, so Maccabees is basically the story told from the usurper's side. It's not found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, but we do see the War Scroll in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is basically that same story told from the Sons of Zadok. And
there it is.
They talk about they were the usurpers, which actually Second Maccabees goes into all of that, showing how they were paid off and to follow the Babylonian calendar. And also it talks about Jonathan Maccabeus, the Hasmonean, literally self-proclaiming himself as a Hasmonean usurper.
Okay, so
Hasmonean.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, I've been reading through that. So I thought that somebody said that they were in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're just in the Apocrypha, so that with the War Scrolls we have the two different sides, and you refer to Maccabees in your
to show that point. Yeah, to show that point that they self-admit, and they show like the true lineage and things like that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so it's the story told from their side, so there is some truth in there, but it's all going to be twisted around to make it seem like, oh, the Maccabees were like the true priesthood restoring everything, when they actually weren't. And they were literally the usurpers who sold out. I'm not saying, don't get these books, don't read them, but I do agree with God culture is it's the story told from the usurper's side to make themselves look good. Whereas the War Scroll is the story from the Sons of Zadok's side, and they explain everything. It's really remarkable.
Okay, so we can use it as a historical document written from the side of those that were involved in the middle of everything, as opposed to the Zadok priests who went into exile. And I was trying to figure out exactly the timing they went into exile and so on as I was reading. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, we see they went into exile because of the usurpation and things like that. So the Maccabees is just, explaining that usurpation and everything that happened there. And yeah, about Dr. P, I'm not sure where he got his translation, if it was from the Ethiopian. I know there's some things in there that he's definitely changed and edited. And when questions are asked of him, he says, "Oh, well, I had a zealous translator or overzealous translator," just to like, excuse away all the errors in his translation. But anyway, yeah, I'm not sure where Dr. P got all his translations from or how he did it. Apparently, they have like a team.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, the War Scrolls from the Zadok's perspective. Yeah. There's actually I think I forget the YouTube channel, but he goes and he basically walks through the War Scroll and he shows how it's basically the opposite of what the Book of Maccabees is saying, like from a different perspective from the sons of Zadok. Yeah, Dr. P wiggled his way out of the debate with Libby and Eddie. Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, we seen that. We saw how he was, texting back and forth on his phone the whole time, not even paying attention to anything, which is why he had no rebuttals to anything. He just hand waved dismissed it all. And then when he was questioned in chat about it, there's some kind of family emergency going on. Well, if it was such an emergency, why wasn't everything paused so that emergency can be handled and then continued later on? Oh, you're the one that filmed it. Oh, wow. Well, thank you for filming that, sister. Lou White's Not Serene version. Yeah, that one. Just the same. There's a lot of additions and errors in there. And of course, it's Lou White, who owns a head shop. If you don't know what a head shop is, it's a paraphernalia shop where he sells, bongs, pipes, things to smoke meth out of. He has a store open on the Sabbath. He's got all kinds of voodoo, incense, pagan, crazy stuff in his shop. Like, yeah, stay away from Lou White. He's, yeah, very, very dangerous. And he's a Jesuit.
My late husband told me about going to his place and not being favorably impressed with it.
Yeah, definitely not impressed at all.
And then somebody sent me, some months back, somebody sent me some interviews that somebody did with him, and they showed the head shop, and they showed the idols in it from other cultures and all kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, YAHUAH and the Torah channel on YouTube, they did a thing about Lou White. And they showed that interview actually, and dude's going in there to do like an interview with him, and Lou, he seems, lit up himself, and he's putting all these like werewolf and vampire masks. You see a bunch of the methamphetamine pipes right there that he's selling to people, things like that. Yeah, his whole head shop, very disappointing. Not of YAHUAH at all. Not to mention, he's got his shop open on Sabbath. But yeah, be very careful.
Years ago.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Years ago, it was in the 90s, I think. No, it was in 2000s. And somebody gave me a book by him, I think called Fossilized Customs, and it was printed by Strawberry Fields or something, and I didn't know who he was, never heard of him. He was teaching the name, and they were pronouncing the name, and I just, what I got in my spirit was, this guy is a Baal priest. That's what I got in my spirit. So I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to what he was doing.
Well, your spirit was absolutely right, because he's a Jesuit priest, and yeah, he doesn't care about truth. Although he does have the proper name. And honestly, I hadn't heard about him until someone like years ago on my post, I was talking about the name Yahuwah. And they were like, "Oh, you got that from Lou White and this and that." I was like, "I don't even know who Lou White is." And I definitely didn't get that from him. It's from my own research that I did that I found Yahuwah, his name. But then because they mentioned that, I was like, "Oh, who is this guy?" So I looked him up. I saw he had a Bible. I was like, "Oh, I'll purchase that." I didn't know he had that. Yeah, Fossilized Customs, yeah. So I bought his Besora Nazarene Bible. I was reading through it and yeah, I'm not impressed at all. I was actually going to do my Daniel reading out of it, but I decided not to because he's calling Yahuwah Allah there, and yeah, I'm just not down with all that. So I've opened it once or twice, and now it just sits on my bookshelf collecting dust. So I mean, I own a Besora Nazarene, but I don't really read from it. I don't use it. It's not nearly one of my favorite translations.
You know
And
what's so amazing about that? It's like because the spirit in it, because I mean I knew the spirit, there was a spirit that was wrong there, and the people that were really pushing it, it wasn't the spirit that I met in my quiet times. So I did not get the name. That was, to me, it was just like, yeah, there's so many people out there with so many different pronunciations of the name, and when you get to talking to them, that the one that they're the spirit that they are manifesting is a different spirit than the one that meets me, and so I didn't want anything to do with it, and so I didn't for a long time. I didn't have the name the way I understand it today. And I still, because of all that craziness with the name, I asked the Father for wisdom on the best way to walk with people who have also sensed that craziness with the name, that there's a different spirit with many of the people who teach it.
oh yeah, yeah. I think the enemy does that on purpose to hide his true name. Because I found Yahuwah just from studying into Hebrew and the Paleo Hebrew. And then you notice Yehuda is the exact same thing, just without the dalet. So you take the D, which is the dalet, out of Yehuda and get Yahuwah. I was like, it's as simple as that. And then all like Yeshayahu, things like that. That's where we see the pronunciation Yahu, because it's in all these other name pronunciations. And then the Yahuwah, it's also in other pronunciations, but they twist all that up and they say, oh no, this is like Yahweh and this is that. Okay, so like a modern day example, Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah, that's where we get Yahuwah. It's not Benjamin Netanyahu. It's Benjamin Netanyahu. So there's just little clues that'll show you. But again, I don't trip or fuss about pronunciations. I don't bash people over the heads over pronunciations. It's just
If you were a basher, I probably wouldn't spend much time listening to you.
Yeah, exactly. And shalom, Brother Brian. Thanks for joining. Glad you can make it. But yeah, it's not about a pronunciation. It's about foundation. And that's what I learned a long time ago, because when I first learned of Yahuwah and Yahusha, kind of bashing people over the head at first as well. But then you realize it starts turning people away because, you know, they see that you're focused on a pronunciation, and just because someone pronounces it slightly different, you're gonna beat someone up over it. Like, no. And even today, I still experience that because, you know, I'll share a video and someone will say, you know, like that one video, the guy kept saying Jesus over and over. I don't agree with that name. I don't use that name. But the guy happened to use it in the video and I shared it on Facebook. And of course, I got like 2 or 3 people coming up. His name's not this and that, blah, 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 blah. I was like, y'all, I know this exactly. You're preaching to the choir. But the thing is, it's not about pronunciations. And if the only thing you got out of that video was a wrong pronunciation, then you missed the whole point. Like, if that was your focus, was just, oh, they said the J name, they didn't say Yahusha or Yeshua or however else. And it's like, well, then you missed the main point of the message, which is really deep. So, you know, it's really sad you're focused on a pronunciation rather than the message itself. But that's just kind of an example, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is that some of us know our Abba and his presence and his spirit and his guidance and his son before he ever revealed this name to us. Others seem to have this idea that until you pronounce the name, you had some other spirit going on with you, if they recognize the spirit at all. The difference in spirit between our Abba and the one out there. I mean, there is a new agey Jesus, quotes unquote. There is another Jesus, another gospel, another spirit received, which of course would be another Yeshua if it was written in the Hebrew. So we have all those warnings, but a lot of us haven't yet. Discernment of spirit, as far as I understand, comes 2 ways. One way is it's just a straight gift from our Abba, and the other is it's developed by handling the word and living in integrity while we're doing it. And so if people don't have the gift of discernment, then all they can do is focus on words, and they fault a brother for a word, and that's not the spirit we've been invited into.
Yeah, I agree. And that's exactly it. It's not about how something's pronounced, it's about the message itself, like what's being said. And yeah, I think it's because they do have that blinder on. Maybe it's not something they're supposed to see because, you know, Yahuwah gave them that strong delusion. Probably because they have to work on, you know, being humble about not bashing people over the head with a hammer about the name.
Yeah, I think that they run a lot of people off that way.
Yeah. And like I said, you know, I'm not going to use the J name or anything. I use the names that I have found in my study, which is Yahuwah and Yahusha. And that's the names I'll use with people to teach them, like, hey, you know, J's they weren't around back then. This is a modern thing that came actually from German. And, you know, before then it was an I in the Greek. But then when you think about it, names don't transliterate. So even if there is an English version of the name or what have you, it doesn't mean that that's how his name was pronounced. No, it's just like let's say someone from Mexico, their name Mateo, because Mateo is Spanish for Matthew. And then they come over to the US and they're like, oh, what's your name? And he's like, Mateo. And they're like, okay, Matthew. It's like, you know, that's a bit offensive, especially if they're saying, "Hey, my name's Mateo," and you're like, "Okay, what's up, Matthew?" They're like, "No, Mateo." Well, Mateo is Matthew in English, so I'm gonna call you Matthew. Its names don't transliterate.
No, as it's spoken of so many times though that the name of Yahuwah is very important. And then when you look at it and you see that it was changed,
Yeah, yeah.
and his name was changed, there's got to be some credence to the importance of it. You know, that's bottom line for me. It's like, well, they changed it, they removed it, so there's got to be some importance that we need to know about.
No, yeah, exactly. Agree. And I'm just saying I don't attack people for not knowing yet. And that's where we have to come in and teach them like, hey, you know, the name was changed. Yes, a lot of people know him by that name, but you know, this is the true name right here. You take it back to the Hebrew, this is how it's pronounced, and boom. I'm just saying, you know, we shouldn't bash people over the head like, hey, that guy said Jesus. I'm ignoring the entire message because of that mispronunciation. And it's like, no, let's not be like that, you know. Yeah, I agree with everything you said.
I recently today went to a service and was using the name, and people don't really know the name, especially in the service. And a couple of them came up afterwards and kind of were inquiring a little bit, and I was trying to explain to them basically the understanding. Some of them were asking about my Z seats and things like that, and I got knots on my Z seats to give me the different numbers for the letters that spell his name, Yod He YAHUAH, and I was using that as a platform to try and explain to him that really the Father's name is just meant to bring us into oneness or a cod with Him. I don't like to use the word oneness, but it's the concept of being a cod, and I used the opportunity to tell him a little bit about the Paleo Hebrew, where the Yod is an outstretched arm, and the Hay is a man with his hands lifted up and reaching to him, and that the shorter version of it is basically just him reaching down to somebody that's lifting their hands up to him and wanting to be in reverence to him, and how he is touching their lives, and how the Vav is, or the Ua is basically a tent peg, and the picture forms of the different letters and what they represent and their numbers and things like that. But and so I basically was trying to encourage them to call upon the name and to understand, you know, this, like you were mentioning earlier, Jeremy, you know, the name. It is important to understand who Yahusha was. He came in the Father's name, and it all worked out okay. Some of them was a little willing to listen, and some of them weren't. But I had the opportunity, and I planted some seeds, and it was hopefully fruitful. We'll see what Yahweh does with it. But
Hallelujah. That's fabulous.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
You
was
went in
really
there,
nice.
you dropped some truth bombs. You were the light in that dark place. And yeah, like I told you, you're probably not going to be well received, but, you know, A for effort and trying, you know?
Well, I'll tell you, it was hard to hear when the preacher was using the name, because he was saying it in a certain way, you know, that emphasized a pronunciation of it, you know. So, but it didn't bother me that he was using. I know what he was trying to do, but sometimes some people, just like we emphasize saying the name a certain way, they emphasize saying the other name a certain way, and it can go both ways when you're combating.
You know, I remember soon after my late husband and I were married, and he loved my songs, and he wanted everyone to know that Yah, or the Lord, or God, whatever way they related to him, um, gave me songs. And I was learning to be instant in season and out of season. So if my husband brought in the guitar and he knew people, he would say, "Hey, my wife, God gives her songs, you know." And I remember one time I said, "You know, my mother told me," and she was a school teacher, that Jesus's mother called him Yeshua. And some people came up to me afterwards and said, "Really?" And so I would put Yeshua and Yah in the songs, and it would start opening up conversations. It was really beautiful. And it's so precious, Yaakov, that the Father is leading you to do things like that, because I know his Spirit works. I know his Ruach works. His presence comes with us as we invite him, and that those seeds are planted in the hearts and minds of people, and he can water them later. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, going in those different places, you know, not bad if you're gonna go in there and impart truth, you know. You know, as long as you know that you're going in, and you know they might not like it, but you're just gonna plant the seeds, and whether they want it or not, that's fine. But you know, to forsake the truth, like if you're just gonna go in there and congregate, just to have fellowship, and just to shut up and just be amongst people, you know, that would be a different thing. You know, they're two different ball games, I think. But what you did, very commendable. And as a matter of fact, I've been really wanting to maybe put together a flyer myself and just go outside and stand outside of churches, and not say a word, but just pass out, you know, some critical information. So,
I did
you know,
that
people
one
could
time,
understand.
Katrina, and the elder ran me off. It was,
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm just wondering if it's legal or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's legal. Until they ask you to leave. But if you're
Okay.
there after they ask you, that's illegal. So you can go in, you can preach all that, but if they say, "Oh, you gotta go," then you just gotta go.
Okay. Because, yeah, I've been really thinking and having it on my heart, because I go past churches when they're in service. I'm like, darn, I wish I had some flyers. I just, like, sit here and pass them out. I mean, I don't even have to say a word. Just, here's a piece of paper that says, you know, there's a better way.
Katrina, you mentioned not saying a word.